All right, if everyone will take their seats, please. We're going to bring to order this Tuesday, May 28th, 2024 City Council meeting to order. Will you all rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Use the flag. Oh no, it's hidden.
It's around the corner. Yeah. It's there. All right. Can we have roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Here.
Councilmember Gottberg.
Here.
Mayor No.
Here.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 3 ceremonial matters. We have none. 4 closed session report. Do we?
We had 2 items in closed session, and council provided direction to staff and our city attorney on both those items. No action was taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move for adoption to number 5, adoption of the agenda. I want to propose that we move 12.3 to 12.2 so we can look at our events back to back, kind of.
I was hoping we could actually combine those 2 items because 2 of those Main Street closures are within 2 weeks of each other,
Okay, are we allowed to do that?
or concurrently discuss them.
It'd be preferable to keep them separate.
Okay, I think the reason we had them separate is because 2 of them are new street closures, and 1 of them is just moving a street closure, is why I suspect staff did it. I have the same concerns, but that's why I tried to move it back to back.
So moved with that change.
Okay,
Second.
all right, do we roll call, please?
Councilmember Gottberg.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, brings us to number 6, announcements and presentations to the public. 6.1, brief comments by the City Council. We will start with Councilmember Gottberg.
I have none.
Vice Mayor?
Me neither.
Councilmember Yarborough?
I have none for tonight.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Let's go for a clean sweep.
No, we're not going to have a clean sweep.
The mayor should have something to say.
Yeah, Saturday I attended the Masonic 402nd District Picnic over at Lions Park on Saturday, and they are looking forward to remodeling their building here on Main Street soon. And I delivered the Memorial Day proclamation at the Veterans Monument yesterday, and that was a really great event. I recommend anybody go see that when they have that on Memorial Day. It's moving. Okay, we will move to 6.2, presentation by the El Dorado County Chamber of Commerce on services programs provided that impact the city. Before I hand it over to Mr. Morris, I just want to say that I requested this item. I feel like we've been having a lot of conversations that kind of just seem disjointed, and I wanted to be able to have that opportunity to talk about what all the chamber does. With that, I will give it to Mr. Morris.
That is almost what I was going to say, Mayor. So, yeah, we have had some discussions recently about, through budget process and et cetera, over the last couple of years, and recently about the chamber and what they do for the city. So I invited our chamber to come and make a presentation to us. So with that, I will turn this over to Laurel Brentbaum.
Can I move this? Hello. Good to be seen. Okay. Thanks for inviting us to come and talk to you. We always welcome an opportunity. Is this okay? Yeah, good. Okay. An opportunity to tell you what we do that I often have been quoted as saying, we do what people think just happens. So obviously we are a member-driven organization. We are also responsible for our Visitors Authority and the Film Commission, which you're going to hear from both those executive directors about the things that they do that impact not just Placerville, but the entire county. One of the things that I think is, next slide, please. There I go. There I go. Okay. So we have lots of programs. Obviously, being a membership-driven organization, the networking opportunities and the branding opportunities are things that are part of our chamber family, part of the people that make an investment in the chamber to keep our programs moving along. But the additional things that we do that benefit Placerville, I think one of our biggest things is our Business Resource Center. And on that, we do one-on-one counseling. We do classes and seminars. We do SBDC counseling. We do tax credit information, employee resource library, meeting facilities, recruitment and screening for applicants for jobs. We do free job postings, business location and relocation assistance. We do exhibitions and special events. Our business showcase, I Love Film Mixer, that's coming up June 28th. Last year was attended by over 2,300 people at the fairgrounds in Placerville. So to that end, that's one of the part of our programs that benefit everyone, whether you're a membership or not a member of the chamber. Additional programs that we have in place, we do an annual study mission, which several of your members have, or past council members have participated in our annual study missions, where we go to different areas, different states, and we glean best practices and come back with things to implement to improve our community. It's also kind of fun because sometimes we come back and say, hey, we're doing it better than they are. So that's always a nice feeling in some areas. Another big plus that's a big advantage that we're on class 16 right now of our leadership program. That's a year-long program that meets monthly. It's made up of 25 participants per class, and there's a gender and a private-public sector balance in that program. Again, you do not have to be a chamber member to do that. It is a pay-and-play program, lasts for a year long, and it educates the people, the participants that are in that program on how we operate in El Dorado County. One program, 1 month, will be film and media and tourism. Another month will be healthcare. Another month is natural resources with El Dorado Disposal. So each class is led by the experts in their field, and they develop the curriculum. So that is a way of, I started the program actually 17 years ago because I was looking around at our board of directors and the gene pool was getting a little shallow. So we decided we were going to grow our own leaders, and we've accomplished that. The program is a year long. At the end of that year, they have to have a class project, which they have an additional year to complete. And one of those projects is Miners on Main Street. So that is an exciting program for the city of Placerville as well. I also want to tell you that I enjoy a really strong, healthy working relationship with Cleve and Pierre. When I have someone that comes into our office and says, the city, blah, 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 and I will say, let me call the city and tell them you're blah, 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 and we'll see if we can get it worked out. When someone's interested in relocating to Main Street or to the city, in the city of Placerville, I meet with them one-on-one. I work with them. I qualify them. I got them into the resources that they need to be able to move forward, to bring those businesses and to help to make the city of Placerville and the county of El Dorado thrive, not survive. It's really the biggest part of my job is advocacy for our businesses and for our new businesses. And also to that end, we are the founding members of UCAN, excuse me, the United Chamber Advocacy Network, and that now consists of 9 different chambers in the region, And we actually pay a lobbyist to advocate for business at the state capitol. That is a direct benefit to our community. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot level of the things that the chamber does, the opportunities that exist today, and get with support, our programs continue to grow. Our ag commitment to agriculture is huge. We know that that's a big part of the quality of life for the city of Placerville as well as the county. So we work very hard to make sure that our ag community is thriving as well. So if you want to take questions now or at the end, if you have nothing to ask me, I've done a terrific job. Okay? Okay, so we're going to move on to Kathleen Dodge, our Executive Director of Film and Media.
I did have a question though, Laurel. The trees on, we do Highway 50 trees at Christmas. Doesn't
I should have made a list.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and that's what I want. I want everyone to realize all the things that go on because we don't always see that.
Again, well, the trees started way back in the 60s. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the history of the trees on Highway 50. But the chamber took them over many, many, many years ago. And then when the Highway 50 improvements came through, and Caltrans promised they were going to build back the infrastructure to be able to have the trees there, they didn't. So Leadership Class 3 raised the money to be able to have the infrastructure built in, and Leadership Class 3 maintains that project every year so that those trees are up for passersby and local residents. So, if I stood here long enough, I could probably talk all night, but we only have 15 minutes. But I welcome you to give us a call, come over and see us. If you have any questions at all, we're here to support the community. So,
Thank you, Laura.
thank you.
Hi, thank you for seeing us. My name is Kathleen Dodge. I'm basically the film commissioner for El Dorado County. And this was a fun task because as I was thinking of well, how do we represent Placerville? We just represent Placerville in almost everything we do. And so as I started to look at my paperwork and my ads, I thought Placerville, Placerville. And so I'm going to go over very quickly, if we can go to my first slide. Oh, man. Okay, great, I can do that. So my first slide, basically, we are called Film Tahoe. It's really important that we're called Film Tahoe because we work a lot with people in New York, different countries, and Los Angeles, and that is an identifier for them to kind of know where they are. We started out working a lot with El Dorado, and people were confused. They weren't sure what state we were in. So program overview, we do a lot. We do cold calling and direct mail in every single way we possibly can to get a project here because of the economic impact. We have a social media platform, and interestingly, I looked and I said, I do things solely on Placerville frequently. And I went into my social media feed, and one of them is 8 of the most welcoming towns in Northern California, Placerville. 6 Placerville restaurants featured in new Food Network show, Best Bites in Town. I had those on there, and then I was also trying to get a movie that Warner Brothers was doing in the state of California. And so I was wooing them, and I had written them and saying, oh, we're so glad you're in the state of California. And when I left on vacation, because that's the way it works, I got a phone call from this company that is doing the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn, and they said they would like to film in Placerville. This was just a few months ago, in February. I was in Mexico, I got the phone call, and we did set that up, and they shot in Placerville in February, so that was very exciting. So we do social media, we respond 24/7, even when I'm on vacation, we market regionally. We work in conjunction with the California Film Commission on legislative issues to keep filming in the state of California. And then I participate in tons of events to lobby to the motion picture industry, but also some of them are award events. And so when I go to those award events, oftentimes I'll have a giveaway basket. This is very common, and so there will be a giveaway basket. And in that, I will almost always, I don't know if I have ever not done it, put a night stay in Placerville, dinner in Placerville. It's really important that I keep that communication going because there is a confusion in the film industry when they hear Placerville, that it might be in Placer County. And so I have to make that really clear so they hear El Dorado County, Placerville, quite as often as possible. So before there was a film commission, you didn't have lots and lots of movies. And I've given you all a little goodie bag that I give to the crew. In it, you might find a hat, but you're also going to find this brochure. And the brochure is a self-guided tour of projects that have filmed in El Dorado County and Placerville. And that's one of the things that we put out that appeals to tourists. It's a crossover piece. So moving on, I've been told I only have 5 minutes to talk, and I don't think that's ever happened, has it, Steve? So one of my jobs, so I'm an economic development driver for the county, and one of my jobs is to get as much purchased locally as possible. So I know about all the lodging, the stores, where to get things, because every time they shop in our county, in our city, I'm doing my job well. So there are vendors, we do community education, we do community outreach. We'll be participating with the Chamber of Commerce in their business showcase and film industry mixer. And that is held Placerville Fairgrounds. And we bring people all the way from the Bay Area to Placerville once a year and do the film industry mixer here. And that will be on June 28th, and I hope you will join us. So, next slide. Some of the filming. We do awards. Steve Ewell has been nominated and won awards. Terry Zeller has been nominated and won awards. Matt Lishman has been nominated and won awards. The reason is Placerville is pretty wonderful to work with. We've had a really great experience. And it helps to have a film commissioner because I have kind of a memory of what has happened with other projects, how we handled it, what worked, what didn't work. We debrief on some of the projects and keep them coming in. So we just recently had Warner Brothers BC project with Leonardo DiCaprio here. We had Best Bites in Town, which is running now on the Food Network, and it's going to attract foodies here to our area. We also had Christmas, Bloody Christmas. And that was in the summer, and there was a lot of snow. So we do include the city of Placerville in almost everything we do, and also make a point to nominate the city of Placerville in our, so we have installation dinner awards. They happen here in El Dorado County for the Chamber of Commerce, which is called the Golden Slate Award. And we also have California On Location Awards, which happen in Los Angeles. They're a very, very big event, and we can nominate public employees, and City of Placerville has frequently been nominated and won as well. So, and then finally, because I only have 5 minutes, things that you might be included in would be something like a recent virtual FAM tour that we did with Location Managers Guild International. I did this jointly with Placer County and Sacramento County. It was to high decision makers in the motion picture industry who would make decisions on very, very high budget movies. We actually videotaped it. And as you can see in all our collateral that went out, we have a picture of Placerville. We talked about Placerville. It was included in the video. It's on my website. So I'm trying to think. I'm out of time. Does anyone have any questions? I'm honored to serve you guys. It's been a pleasure working with Placerville. And as I said, I do help clerk the permits when they come in so that I can look at what's what's being suggested to happen in Placerville and say, if I see some red flags. Also, when we have projects that there would be any kind of mitigation, I can get involved in that as well and have in the past successfully.
Great. We have one question here for you.
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. Just a question, and there may not be any answer to this, but when you are pitching and you've heard from maybe companies or filming companies, is there anything that we're lacking that they would have been, oh, if you had had X, it would have been great to come film here? Is there been anything like that? I'm just wondering, is there a missing ingredient out there?
We could use more hotel rooms.
Hotel, yeah.
That's the truth of it. The hotels that we have worked very nicely with us, but if there's any event, and literally what has occurred when we have had movies here is that I am trying to not lose the lodging because we're juggling hotels. Because what happens is if I have a project that would be in for a couple weeks or a month, well, they can't leave on the weekends. They're here working, they're living out of this space, and then we have a wedding. Well, I'm sorry, there's a wedding. If that happens and they can't lodge, that creates a real big problem as to them coming. We have done everything. In fact, our office to keep a project in Placerville has actually incentivized Placerville lodging to keep it competitive and make it work. I've moved at the film office's expense, moved people to different lodging that was available because we don't want to lose a project because we can't house them over 2 days.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I left my business cards here and a few of the brochures, but they're free and they're at the Chamber of Commerce if you're interested. Thank you.
We should take public comment on this, and it did look like one member of the public had a question.
Okay, we have one more person in the presentation. How about we take questions after the presentation?
Okay.
Thanks.
Jody Franklin, I'm the Director of Tourism. So Chamber is the umbrella over the top, and then they contract with the county for Kathleen and I and our jobs. So mainly what I do is marketing, only it's destination marketing rather than car sales. So we have a website, visiteldorado.com. Placerville is very, we have 2 different sites for landing pages for Placerville on that, as well as blog content and things. So we have a downtown Placerville, which is basically the core here, and then we have a downtown Placerville page, and then a regular Placerville page, so that encompasses Placerville that's not Main Street. We pay for SEO, so we get quite a few visits on that. 28,000 is generally about what we get a month. We support the downtown brochure. We advertise on that. Visit El Dorado does. And then we make that, kind of underwrite that, so then the Placerville merchants it's cheaper for them. They can invest, I think the cheapest is maybe $75 to be a part of that. So we support that. We also have the El Dorado County Farm Trails and Visitors Guide, which is a collaboration with the Farm Trails Association, but that also includes Placerville, content, events, things to do, downtown map, lodging, and all that. And it's important to note those are also at the Sacramento International Airport. So those visitor guides, we pay to have those there. So we're just trying to get them before they've made the decision about where exactly they're going to do and where they're going to go and what they're going to do. We have a really strong social media. We're on all the platforms. We have a targeted email, so we have a database of 12,000. So we feature Placerville content on that, as well as, a lot of other things. Media and public relations, we actually have a PR person that we pay to pitch and host journalists, influencers, and content creators. And then we go to travel and trade shows, both on behalf of El Dorado and on behalf of Gold Country as well. So we can get Placerville in there at that. And then visitor services, we have the Visitor Information Center right across the street with wayfinding in person and Placerville-specific information. A lot of what we get asked is Placerville-specific information. But we also get phone and email as well. And then by mail, we mail out those collateral pieces. There's nobody that is going, if they want a map of downtown Placerville, there's nobody that will send them that at no cost. We do. They call the chamber, and we pay for that to mail that out. And also, we facilitate group visits. If that's kind of a quick way to get them on the street. If I can facilitate parking, which is the big question, I call Carey House and ask if we can drop them off in front of that. If we have a second bus, we try to do it in front of the hardware store. And then I greet them with, information, a map. Sometimes I get incentives from different merchants on the street, and they go about their merry way for as long as I can possibly keep them there. Usually it's about 3 hours, but we try to keep them longer. What I wanted to say about all these things is this is the thing you're already getting. However, when we contracted with you and had additional marketing money, we were able to leverage all that stuff and just build it up. So that, for instance, Kathleen was talking about the Best Bites. So as basically in the free package, we've got, we build social media around that for visitors. We build Instagram stories. We built an email to go to our database around it, trying to get more of a tail on that, so it's not just, here they came, featured these 5. We're trying to feature other Placerville restaurants as well. You knew about this or you heard about that. What about this? So we're just really trying to get the most out of that. If we had additional Placerville money, then we're paying for a targeted email into the Bay Area. That's really a high target for us, as well as Reno. So then we target those areas with a paid promotion with that same content. So that's just one example of how we can, the difference between paid and unpaid. You're still getting benefit, unpaid, but paid, we can make a bigger splash. And just some final thoughts. There's 3 different promotional programs that you've heard about here, 3 different economic drivers. We're to different audiences. Mine's visitors, we've got film, and we've got economic development with the chamber. 3 different websites, 3 different social media platforms, but you've got one organization supporting those small businesses and supporting Placerville business community altogether. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions from the council? Okay, we'll open this for public comment for any questions. Somebody looked like they had a question before. Questions, comments?
Ruth Michelson. Oops. I'd really like to thank the Chamber for everything they do. As a merchant, it's appreciated. Thank you. Thank you so much. It does make a difference. And I wanted to have 3 quick comments to make. The first had to do with what a huge, huge difference it made when you granted them that $50,000 and then followed up with the next $15,000. Because when they were doing their outreach, I don't know exactly what is all, I'm not technically savvy, but whatever they were doing, as a merchant, we all saw a very big difference. Because I ask everyone where they're from, are they traveling today? And we had people from, a lot of people from Reno, a lot of people from Stockton, a lot of people from Modesto. It's not happening anymore. People have to be constantly reminded that we are here. We have to constantly feed the beast. And this first quarter that we just had downtown was the worst first quarter. John Saunders, who has Old Town Grill, said in his 23 years, it was his worst first quarter. So the kind of efforts that the chamber makes is so appreciated. We're all just struggling. I'll tell you what, for our business, this last weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, was the first really good weekend since Christmas time. That's a long time to go. The other thing, real quick, was I've noticed the El Dorado Hills Chamber is an event planning organization. I went to their Blues in the Hills the day before Mother's Day. It was wonderful. It was near that, it was the grounds of Discovery Church in El Dorado Hills. Totally sold out event, 1,000 people. so many sponsors that the El Dorado Hills Chamber is connected with. I know the woman that they brought out of retirement to do that event said she wasn't going to touch it until $30,000 had been raised, and they were able to do that. They had a sponsored stage, et cetera, and they had sponsors ringing the whole field where the event was. And, you know, we as volunteers and merchants struggle to put on events, and I just wanted to bring that up as a possibility and to ask the question of if our chamber could ever be in that position to help with sponsoring an event or two. And the last thing was, I know this has been brought up before, but people on the weekends would really like to have access to the chamber. And would the chamber ever consider maybe closing on some of the slower days during the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, and possibly think of staffing on the weekend or having a kiosk or something, because so many out-of-towners are asking questions about what can they see, what is there to do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Hello, Council. My name is Sandy, and I thank you for taking my comments. I just want to say, wow, that's a great presentation and a great chamber that you guys have here. I'm really impressed with the 3 branches that you have. I was really impressed with what you said about UCAN. Yeah, that there's 19 Chamber of Commerce's all networking to 9. Okay, well, still, that's a large group, yes. And I did hear you also mention that you pay a lobbyist to watch out for what's happening at the state capitol, and I think that's really smart, and I'm hoping that you're asking the lobbyists to help with whatever efforts there are with our public safety and the theft. Yeah, I was just going to say the smash and grab things and stuff like that, because that makes people feel very unsafe being around in public places, unfortunately. So I really hope that you're asking them to do that, because the public appreciates that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will close public comment. I want to thank the Chamber so much for coming down and talking to us. We really appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Again, if public council members, if you have any questions, we're right across the street.
Great.
Come see us.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to number 7, our consent calendar. Do we have any questions with council? No? Okay, we will open the consent calendar for public comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for motion.
I'll move the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, can I have,
Mayor? Oh,
oh,
yes.
I did it, I didn't see anyone move. Come on up. You gotta move fast with me.
No, not yet.
No,
Not yet.
we're not there. Thank you. Okay. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gottberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to number 8, public comment on non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. State law prohibits the council from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the city council under specified circumstances. The mayor reserves the right to limit speakers' time to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or comments which are slanderous or may invade an individual's personal privacy. Okay, now we will open this for public comment.
Hi, my name is Dave, and we are with We the People. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you so much for giving us time to speak with you. Thank you so much for being public servants for the people, for having taken your oaths to uphold and defend our constitutions, both the state and federal. We are coming to you this evening in peace, as we the people to give you notice and instructions so that you and your agents may provide due care. This notice of election maladministration has been given to the California governor, the California secretary, the state, California Supreme Court, to the California Senate and Assembly. We are now giving you a copy. In the past 4 years, we have witnessed the form of elections change from one-day elections to election seasons without the consent of the people. However, we have learned that the government was never granted any authority to change the ways of the elections, not even in times of emergency. Despite adamant claims that there are no instances of election malfeasance, that the election is to be trusted as certified, we have discovered there are multiple cases of election maladministration, including in the city of Lodi, California, where a council member has been convicted of election fraud. We have included an exhibit of these proven incidents in the notice package just given to you. We have also included a list of election best practices. Please take notice that the people have assembled together, consulted peaceably by right, and realize that our servants in every state, as well as federal government, have been led to believe that they are generating the basic rules and terms of elections. However, the people now know that the foundational law in the Constitution are the rules which must be followed with exact regard. Please take notice that the California Constitution, Article 4, Section 2B, grants power to the government to hold our elections on a single day. Furthermore, the California Constitution prohibits improper practices and disqualifies all votes under age, non-resident, non-citizens, mentally incompetent, and felons incarcerated or on parole. Any deviation from the Constitution result in nullification of the election. Maxim 46D states, where the law prescribes a form, the non-observant of is fatal to the processing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I'm Debbie, and I'm with We the People. The main object of government is the protection and the preservation of personal rights, private property, and public liberties. The government just serves for our benefit as public officers, trustees, and servants of the people. Since the county board has a history of certifying elections that have not followed the exact form specified in the Constitution, we are very concerned that another maladministered election will occur in this fair county. Please take notice that our Republican form of government, all servants have sworn to protect our rights in the constitutional elections as a condition to be hired as trustees. As an elected official, do you believe that it is your duty to always uphold the form of lawful elections as written in the Constitution? Or do you believe that you have been granted authority to conduct elections, count the votes, and certify election results that deviate from the Constitution? If so, please show constitutional authority granting you the power to change the form of the people's elections within the next 15 days, sworn under penalty of perjury by affidavit, and post this granted authority conspicuously, notifying the public and all agents, or you agree by acquiescence that all statements in this notice to be true and fact. If you cannot show where you got the authority and you take any action to certify future elections which are not following the Constitution, your actions will be construed as being done with malice, intent, full knowledge, and purposeful transgression against your trust indenture, your contract with the people. That would be the Constitution. This notice is given in peace and with the love of Christ, that you, and your agents may provide due care to those who have all political power, the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
And I just want to apologize. I mixed up the mayor and the councilman's name, so. But yeah, we're glad you're here. Thank you.
Hi, Sandy again. Again, I'm Sandy, and I'm here today as one of We the People. We thank you for agreeing to be servants of the people. We thank you for having taken your oaths of office to uphold and defend our constitutions. We come in peace. We come in peace to provide notice and instruction so that you and your agents may provide due care. This national lockdown notice has already been given to 50 state governors, to the President of the United States, to the Supreme Court, to the United States Senate, and the United States Congress. We are now giving you a copy. In January, we learned that the federal government, in alignment with the World Health Organization, has announced an amendment to a credible threat of a public health emergency. Their expanding countermeasures now include both Ebola and Marburg viruses, and extension of liability immunity to manufacturers, distributors, program planners, qualified persons and their officials, agents, and employees. We have included this report in our notice envelope just given to you. We have also learned that the government was never granted any authority to lock down the people, even in times of emergency. The main object of government is the protection and preservation of personal rights, private property, and public liberties. The government just serves for our benefit as public officers, trustees, and servants of the people. We are also attaching a list of unalienable rights, which includes the right to accept or refuse any medical treatment for any reason. Since this council has a history of putting the city under health emergency orders for extended periods of time, we are very concerned that another round of involuntary lockdowns and health orders could occur in our fair city. My colleague will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Hi, my name's John. Continuing with, please take notice that all states in our Republican form of government have sworn to protect individual liberty as a condition to be hired as trustees. The people of America are all granted to have the same rights in all states. As an elected official, do you believe it's your duty to always protect the natural rights of the people so they are granted enjoyment of their natural rights? Or do you believe that in some time of panic or emergency, you can remove the people's rights to freely exercise liberty, such as movement, worship, commerce, or any other purpose that is lawful? If that's the case, please show constitutional authority where you get that power, posting the granted authority conspicuously within 15 days, notifying the public and all agents. If you cannot show where you got the authority and you take any action blocking the people's rights to enjoy freedom, and any lockdown notice, mandate, or forced use of medical device will be construed as being done with malice, intent, full knowledge and understanding against your trust indenture, your contract with the people, the Constitution. This notice is given in peace and with the love of Christ, that you and your agents may provide due care to those who have all political power, the people. It looks like there's about a minute and a half left, so I'll continue with a couple of notes that I just came up with in the audience. On a lighter note, I invite you to join, as we are doing now, as one of the people, to serve notice and affidavits to all levels of government between here and the Board of Supervisors and on up through the state and the nation. Not as a council member, but as one of we the people. That's number one. Okay, a minute left, so I'll reorder these. So that you have a better idea of what's going on with the elections, I invite you to watch Let My People Go, which is a documentary that was banned by everybody that's against America, is by David Clement. He's the he's an election integrity expert. And that would help you better understand where we're coming from with the election notice. 20 seconds. So I'll say, I would recommend that with the ideas of regional groups and levels of government that roll out unconstitutional constraints on the rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness and property, that you reject all money from them. It might take a while to wean yourself, but the money comes with strings that are attached. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Just want to talk to you about something happening right here, a little more defined. We have Golden History Days coming up. I'm very excited. The whole Committee of 11 is very excited. And I just wanted to share with you a little merchant flyer that went out to the merchants on Main so that they would know what's happening. And we're really hoping you all can attend. And we're also hoping a couple of you, like last year, will help us at the opening ceremonies. John Clarici and Michael Saragosa, you were so kind as to be there at 9 o'clock. And so if a couple of you will show up, we so appreciate it. And just wanted to give you that update that every day we're working on this. We have a Mountain Democrat article coming in the paper next week, and we just hope to have a really great showing of people. And that's all. Just wanted to give a little update. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. Do we have any other public comments on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will bring that back to the council. Move on to 8.2, written communications. Do we have any?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, number 9, items pulled from the consent calendar. We have none. Ordinances, we have none. We will move on to number 11, public hearings. 11.1, consideration to adopt a resolution declaring the abandoned pole sign located at 7530 Green Valley Road as an abandoned on-premises sign and a public nuisance, and to declare to commence abatement. Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'm going to start with just a little background. The subject property is located on the southwest corner of Green Valley Road and A&A Road. The subject parcel has been occupied by a variety of tenants, including Snowline Hospice, Christ-like Services, Western Sign Company, and AMC Restoration. The warehouse building is currently occupied by New Beginnings, and the shop building is occupied by Myers & Sons Drywall. The 75-foot pole sign was constructed under a building permit in 1981. The subject pole sign and support structure is located adjacent to the approximately 3,200 square foot commercial building now occupied by New Beginnings. The city has no business license on file for the subject business. However, the staff does believe that the building is currently being used for office and primarily storage for New Beginnings. And that's just background. In 2011, the Development Services Department brought before the City Council an inventory of abandoned signage throughout the city. This subject pole sign was included on that inventory as an abandoned sign at that time. The previous tenant of the building, AMC Restoration Company, had not occupied the parcel in over 180 days, with their signed copy remaining on the pole structure. The City Council, after hearing testimony, allowed the pole sign to remain on the property, the property owner arguing that the economy had made renting the commercial space challenging, that the pole sign was an incentive for renters, and that the property was actively being marketed and the pole sign was therefore not abandoned. Graphic Inc., it's an advertising copy, is included on the pole sign along with Christ-like Services, between 2018 and March of 2019. Christ-like Services vacated 7530 Green Valley Road in 2020. Since 2020, the pole sign has advertised both Christ-like Services and Graphic Inc. The sign for Graphic Inc. is off-site advertising, which is prohibited sign within the city's ordinance. Staff has determined that the sign is abandoned and is also a non-conforming illegal on-premises sign because, one, it includes advertising for a previous tenant that has been gone for at least 4 years. Two, it includes off-site advertising for a business not located on a subject property, constituting an illegal off-site advertising sign. And then three, the current tenant, present for a minimum of 12 months, maybe more, has not utilized the pole sign for their own copy. The city's zoning ordinance defines an abandoned business as one that is not operated on a regular and active basis for a period of 180 days or more, during which the business advertised has not been carried on those activities which are necessary and incidental to the operation of a business or like type or character. The sign also meets the definition of an illegal on-premise signs, which applies to any on-premise sign erected without first complying with all ordinances and regulations in effect at the time of construction and erection or use, and two, any on-premise sign that was legally erected but whose use has ceased and that the business identified or advertised has been abandoned. In accordance with the California Business and Professions Code and the city zoning ordinance, the council, as a legislative body of the city, may declare by resolution that the illegal and abandoned signs or sign structures are a public nuisance and are to be abated. As required by city code, the property owners of the subject property on which the sign is located were provided written notice of the proposed resolution by the council by way of registered mail of May 7th of 2024 and hand-delivered to the owner on May 21st. So with that, staff is recommending that the council adopt the proposed resolution to declare the sign abandoned, on-premise sign on subject property to be a public nuisance and declare to abate as such. That concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the council? Okay. Councilmember Zaragoza?
Thanks, Pierre. I'm just wondering, did the one we just did last council meeting, did they take up our offer, that 2-week window to remedy or?
I was going to report on that sign under staff reports.
Gotcha.
I can wait until that item.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
No questions then.
Okay, we'll open this for public comment. We'll see.
Owner of the subject property. For your information, what the staff just read, nearly 5 minutes, was provided in a staff report issued at the start of a long holiday weekend. The lawyer I called wasn't available, as you might expect on a holiday. Much of what the staff said, I would argue that the staff knew or should have known is not true, not accurate. For example, the statement about how the property was addressed in 2011. Mr. Rivas had the CD. He had the actual meeting. And that was presented to him many times. There was conferences I had with John Driscoll, the city attorney. So what I've asked you for, and again, I'm apologizing for having to done this late. There was a long weekend, but this is also extraordinarily unpleasant. I don't like to be in this position. It's much different representing somebody else than being in this situation. The request for continuance is very simple. It's based on due process. The staff report says that the person was served with notice on the 7th. Well, what that is it stems from a rule that you have that looks like it was cut and paste from a typical rule regarding using for service return receipt requested certified mail. The reason you have that for service is so that you have proof that someone actually got the papers. The answer is, I didn't get them at that time, and not until substantially later. I can give you actual copies of the from the post office of the certificates. They weren't until much later. So that's a problem because constitutional due process is something that we're all obligated to follow. We take an oath. We're going to defend the Constitution, the 5th and 14th Amendment. There's a number of cases I've cited for you that are very long and clear. I think Goldberg versus Kelly, the idea that you have notice and reasonable opportunity to be heard. What is not known is that for example, the Graphic Inc. has a lease, a rental agreement that I would have been able to provide over the weekend, to use that property, because when they apply signs to the vehicle, to a motor vehicle, which they do, it's put inside of a garage rather than left outside because of the controlled temperature changes. So there was a rental agreement done with that a long time ago. So that was the use. But those things aren't able to be presented. The staff report makes reference to lots of assumptions where there are actual facts. On the matter of signage on that property, I asked that the staff communicate with my property manager. And Sean said that on this property, Liz said that the first one is permissible for the reasons just described, and on the top, you can cover it up. That's what she said. Do you expect me on a Friday night to come in on Tuesday morning when someone comes back to work and come up with an affidavit? So it's not really fair. It's not the way to do it in an orderly process. And I think that when you have these kinds of hearings, all parties, myself included, should be under oath. You should have cross-examination so you can verify this information. How are you going to get an attorney in that short notice? So how did I actually, and by the way, the explanation as to why I didn't pick up the slips is indicated as an exhibit towards the end. It's a screenshot on my cell phone. I started getting these text messages saying, have you picked up your DNA test kit? And at first, it sounded credible because I participated in a UC Davis medical study.
Kirk, I need you to stay on point here, please. I'm letting you go over. I'm willing to listen to your complaints, but I need you to wrap it up and stay on point here.
The point is called notice, an opportunity to be.
Okay, I've heard that, but you're talking about DNA tests now,
reason
and
for
I'm not
ignoring
clear
it-
how that
well,
applies here.
Just to clear it up, and I want to make sure that I'm clear, the reason for noticing it is why would you go down and pick up something that's from a scam artist? So and when I did get it, it's because at the last Tuesday's meeting of the Planning Commission, I was handed a copy from the staff, which could have been done at the very beginning. If you'd given me a call, that could have been cured. But dropping it in the mailbox, return receipt requested, certified mail, is not service. It's not service until the person gets it. Service is often in the federal rules of civil procedure, the federal rules of criminal procedure, is typically done by mailing, regular mail, and then you have a certificate that you send it by regular mail, the address, return receipt requested is presumed to about 3 days later. The other thing is if you look at the slips from the post office, I can see you're getting anxious.
Well, no, we want you to wrap it up.
What, he gets 5 minutes and I get how many? I'm sorry, if.
I have questions for you. I'm waiting for
I'm
you to
ready-
finish your
I'm ready to
point
go
so
for
we
the
can have a conversation.
I hope we can address the due process, but thank you.
We'll get there, but we're not there yet.
I'm ready for you.
Okay. So these signs have been up. This is your building, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so these signs have been up there for a whole year without anything happening.
I can't say that because of the reasons I just described. The person on Graphic Inks has a rental agreement to be able to use that entrance of the warehouse.
Okay, what about the other sign?
Pardon?
What about the other sign?
The other sign is reasonably described as abandoned.
Okay, so you agree it's been
I
abandoned?
would agree that the top one is abandoned.
Okay, thank you. Do we have comments on the legal questions?
Sounds to me like our notice procedures prescribed in the ordinance were followed here. And I think the city manager has some additional comments on communications about this matter with the property owner.
The only thing to add, and I didn't realize Kirk just mentioned, Mr. Smith, excuse me, that we did provide him notice last Tuesday night at the Planning Commission. I know he did have it then because he came and talked to Pierre and I about that in the middle of the meeting or after the meeting when it was over. I forget which it was, but so I know he did have it as of last.
Okay, so there was more communication before Friday?
Correct.
Correct, thank you. Okay, do I have other questions from the council? Councilmember Saragosa.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Question for you. I mean, aside from, I know you had asked for a continuance on this item, but what are you looking to save the signs? Or are you looking to have another tenant put advertisement up? I'm just looking to see what your end result would, what your preferable end result would be.
Intentions are as follows. As far as that particular property, New Beginnings just gave me notice last week that they don't want to keep it on. They don't want to continue. Pierre asked about them, and my answer was everybody down there pays top dollar market rates, and they're all paid in full and on time. But they've asked to leave. So what we would be doing is advertising for new space. Under the Joe Stancil rule that we had up here for a long time at the tire shop, is you put up a sign that says for lease, and that's permitted. It was permitted for Stancil for a very long period of time. This property had a tenant. Anyway, that's the past history, but that's the answer to your question, what was done. The other is that when I was last here on this subject, it was because I brought in a team of an architect and the Bruce Wartanan, who has the Fowler Way project over in Diamond Springs. And this was the project that we were going to do. And the problem is that in order to get a permit to do that, the city demanded that I agree that I would turn over the requested, demanded permit, the property in front of parking, take it for eminent domain with just a 60-day notice. Who is going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make those kind of improvements? And I think you remember because you were mayor at the time. Who's going to make those changes? Because you just send in a letter and say, we want it, and that's it. So after that, and when you finally helped to get that changed, the problem we had is we had a state litigation where the lawyer said you cannot make any changes, any improvements on the property that's going to substantially change its value. Well, the transfer of the property did not happen until December. I didn't own it until December.
Are we still talking about this property?
Pardon?
Are we still talking about this property?
Yes. There's two parcels.
Okay, I just want to know if we're talking about 7530 Green Valley Road.
Yeah.
Okay, because the picture you have there really confuses me.
I don't want to confuse you. There's two parcels. One's on Placerville Drive, one's in Green Valley. One's commercial and the other is mostly warehouse and shop space. The project was for both parcels. But the position of lawyers was you cannot make any changes, which is substantial. Put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the property, you're going to change its value. And so as long as that was being done, the answer is you couldn't do it.
So we're talking about this.
Finally, after all that,
Sorry, I'm looking at the parcel map and I'm trying to find out. So you're saying 7530 Green Valley Road is two persons, two parcels.
Green Valley is one parcel, and Placerville Drive is the second parcel.
So they're not on the same property.
They're contiguous, not the same property.
They look like they barely meet at a corner, looking at the map I have.
This is the property with the sign. This is the property that that picture is of right there.
Okay,
This is Carl Hagen's old space.
okay,
That's
okay,
Spanky's.
okay.
Last year, as the.
Okay, Kirk, I'll ask any more questions right now. We're going to stay on task on this item.
I got a question.
Okay.
Okay. So Kirk, let me see if I can understand this. So the graphics people are still on the property, so they have a right for the sign, right?
That's what they've told me.
Okay. And then the Christ, you said was abandoned. So is your solution to remove the Christ advertisement and put up a for lease advertisement? Is that what I'm understanding?
Temporarily, yes.
Okay.
I don't believe, the graphics, thank you. The graphics people are not on the subject property. The graphics people are next to, or very close to Spanky's. But apparently, the graphics people access something on the subject property.
That's correct. That was the
Okay,
agreement.
that's the connective tissue for
So-
the one sign.
So and I think I got this. So they're using one of those garages for their work?
That was the agreement.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's.
There you go.
There's where our access is for the graphics.
For the
Okay,
graphics.
So I want to ask staff about that, though. Now
Okay.
that staff has had the explanation, what would be their response to that?
So our response would be, that's not their place of business. So they have signage at their place of business, which is, it's a suite that's in that building off of Placerville Drive that's adjoining the Spanky's Pizza.
Okay.
We have no idea if they're leasing a portion of the building that's, we always assumed was part of the Myers and Sons drywall.
Right, and that would be two signs, which is not allowed in the city of
Wouldn't be
Placerville.
allowed to have a sign
That's what I
down there.
thought.
We have evidence instead of assumptions, because I just got through talking to Robin, the owner of that business, and she said that she talked to Pierre and told him about the use, and also expressed her distaste at this, the way it's enforced. I have a problem, because I keep telling both tenants, I don't care the arguments about it's discriminatory, and they've got 40 signs just like yours on Placerville Drive. There's one right across the street, right on Eldorado, Stevens and Long. I don't care. Just get it done. And that's the argument I kept having, is that they're doing it in a discriminatory way. And I'm trying to tell them, you're going to have to pay the fees. There's a second issue. Because I've now asked, you have different people giving you different answers. And Pierre just said one thing, and the property manager says that Liz, who handles enforcement, said something different, which is you can have the first one, but not the top one. So that's the problem when you have these things.
I hear the same thing. You can have one, but not the second. That's what we just said.
Yes, that's kind of what the law.
Mayor, if I could just.
Yes, please.
And Mr. Smith said that we, staff had spoken with the owner. Yes, and that includes myself. We did meet with the owner of Graphics, Inc., but that had nothing to do with the pole sign. The signage that they have on the building that faces Placerville Drive is far too large and was installed without a permit, so we're just requiring that you permit that sign. But there was never a discussion about the pole sign, so.
Thank you.
Taking the city's position most generously possible, they're construing May 7th as the date of service, which means they pop it in the mail. Doesn't mean it gets to me, pops it in the mail. Under the factual circumstances, it's this last Tuesday. that one of the 3 letters actually is in my hands. And it could have been done a lot earlier by making that phone call. So that's the most recent time that I actually have it. But when's the set of facts? It's slowly evolving. You're hearing things for the first time that's presented Friday night. How are you going to assemble the responses?
Okay, Kirk, you said the first time you heard about it was Friday night, but staff said they talked to you at Tuesday at the Planning Commission. Do you not recall that conversation?
Did I mix up the dates? I'm talking about Tuesday of last week. Here at the Planning Commission meeting is when I was handed a copy. Is that what I said?
Well, you kept saying Friday.
Friday is when we get
But you
staff report. Is that right? Do I have the date right?
okay.
Am I wrong? No. When did we get the staff report?
We're just trying to understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to put it together.
Staff report is the meat. It's the substance. Notice is one thing, but what's your case all about? It's in Friday, in that package, before the start of a 4-day weekend.
But you were informed Tuesday of the last Planning Commission, a week ago.
That's a notice. Have you seen the notice?
Okay.
I'll give you the notice that was given. It's not enough to tell you. It's not the same thing as what you just heard.
Mayor,
Thank you.
if I may comment.
Please.
Regarding, we are required to send certified mail. We're not required to serve a notice. Like this was a criminal case before or being subpoenaed to a court. I would defer to our city attorney, but that's the rules that we follow. We provide certified mail to the address that's known for the property owner. We don't send out a process server. We don't serve in person to the property owner.
Okay.
Problem's been presented to you at least twice before by other people. But if the rule, if the rule says it.
Kirk, the rules say that the graphic sign is not allowed to be there. Are you standing here arguing with what our codes say?
I have no objection to the top sign.
Okay. You have no objection to the top sign being.
It has to be changed.
It has to be changed.
Agreed.
Okay.
No dispute.
Okay. What about the bottom sign?
We were told that it's permissible. We were told it's permissible by Liz, who handles enforcement.
We're telling you right now it's not permissible. It said last Friday. Okay.
I just want to correct, who told you that?
Liz.
My property manager
Oh, a property manager.
reports that he had a conversation with Elizabeth, person Rodriguez, who handles the enforcement, and that was her explanation.
We don't have an Elizabeth.
I don't think you're a
Help me on that.
I'm
Was it Isabel?
Isabel.
What are you talking? Okay, I just want to make sure. You kept saying Liz, and I want. Thank you. I just want to
Isabel.
clarify that.
Yeah, yeah.
Make
you
a
can.
suggestion.
You see
Yes.
the problem?
Okay, everybody stop.
What
I have the vice mayor who wants to make a suggestion.
Well, no, I defer over there because you might be making the same suggestion I am. I'm going to make a suggestion. Okay. Boy, oh boy. I've heard this sign has been a topic of conversation more than once, I'll tell you. And I mean, with all due respect, Kirk, and you and I have chatted over many lunches about this sign. It's not like the issue with this sign came up 2 weeks ago. It's been around for a while and all of that. But I'm going to suggest something just to get the ball moved down the field a little bit here. And I guess last week there was a sign issue. Was there? Yes, different sign. And we gave that person 2 more weeks. Correct. And I know staff sometimes gets upset when we do things like this, and I want to apologize, but I would suggest that we give this 2 more weeks to work out.
Tell me what you want to do in 2 weeks, okay, please?
Well, I want you to understand staff's position in such a way, because my gut and my brain tells me that the graphics ink sign should not be there, okay? And obviously the other sign shouldn't be there. You've even said that.
Right.
So
I look for practical solutions and I'll take it. But I'm troubled, just to let you know, I will argue this business about due process because I don't agree with council, but I don't want to,
Understood. Understood.
for me, I can hire lots of lawyers, and I would love to do it, and it's tax deductible, but I don't think it makes sense, so that's why I'm interested.
Well, and if we give you 2 more weeks,
Yeah,
then you will have
tell me what you want up
lots.
there.
Well,
You
that's
want
up.
New
That's
Beginnings
between.
in one and graphic on the other? Or do you
That's
want them
between
both
you and
Beginnings?
staff, but if we give them 2
Yeah.
weeks, then that takes care of the notice part. Now you have plenty o' notice.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, Mike, quick question. Okay, Pierre, you did say you had a conversation with Graphics Inc. about their sign at their business location, correct?
That's right.
Okay, was there any conversation about the graphic sign on the pole with the business?
There was no discussion of the pole sign.
Okay,
whatsoever.
so it sounds like we need to have that discussion with the business saying that the pole sign is no longer allowed, it wasn't allowed to begin with, and clarify that with the business and give them the opportunity to have it removed so they can come into, compliance with our ordinance. It sounds like what we need to do. So I think that 2 weeks that we're going to add on to this so that can be taken care of potentially should help alleviate the situation. At least this way Graphic Inks will know that that sign is not supposed to be there. And then, of course, Kirk, you've already admitted that the other one needs to be come down anyway. So will that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Property is for sale. This is
Gotcha.
not gonna
Okay.
forward, okay, forget it. I'm not doing it. I won't any more of this kind of stuff. So just give me a simple solution, I'll do it. It's for sale. It's all for, I've got a real estate agent. The signs are going up shortly.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
not going to put money into something that's going to be up in the air.
I think we need to have that conversation with Graphics Inc. to give them the opportunity, since they are the business that is technically responsible for the advertisement, that they should have that sign removed.
And yes.
Or I'll put up 2 signs that say New Beginnings. It doesn't matter what it is.
Well, if they're leaving, they can't advertise. If that's what I understand, that you say they're vacating the property, then,
Well, you said that they weren't interested in
Give us
advertising.
notice.
Well, they're leaving.
By the first of the month, they would be leaving on the end of June. That's correct.
so.
Once they give us the actual notice, they would be leaving.
Put for sale signs.
Mayor, if staff can make another comment.
Please.
With regards to off-site advertising signs, we don't go after the party that put up the sign. We go after the property owner
Their sign. That makes sense.
that the sign resides on.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe I'm unclear about it. So basically, because it's the property owner, it's their responsibility for the correct advertisement on their sign.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So regardless, Kirk, I'm sorry. So it sounds like you need to have the conversation with Graphics Inc. to let them know that that sign's going to have to come down.
Yes.
Okay.
Come up with an answer. But here's the things that are troublesome, and excuse me for being a stickler on the Constitution and on notice. But Robin just told me when I left, I wasn't privy to the conversation. None of us were. But she's saying something quite different. And as far as telling me that I'm responsible as a property owner, I can tell you that every one of them was told something different. They've been told that it's first the business operator, and then it comes to me if that's not successful. So
That's
the
why
left foot doesn't know what the right hand is.
we put things in writing. That way we don't have to have the he said, she said conversation.
What signage do you want?
So here's my suggestion, Kirk, and this is a suggestion.
Please.
So basically, let Graphic Inc. know that that sign's coming down regardless.
Right.
Okay. We already know the Christian sign is coming down. And if you're selling the property, is it within our ordinance that he can put for sale on those signs?
Unfortunately, it is
decide
not.
that
I think there's a size limit on the for sale signs.
Okay.
I just
well,
looked through the ordinance.
There is, but this
Okay.
to say that size wasn't an issue, staff's retort would be, you're to decide whether or not we have an abandoned sign or not.
Right.
Just the fact that we're going to turn it into a for sale sign doesn't make that go away.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's an abandoned sign.
What was it with Stansel? How many years was that?
Okay.
I'm going to ask another kind of question along these lines. I'm sorry, guys. But if the signage currently said New Beginnings, I know it does not, but if it did, their lease is up, they're moving out. How long at that point would you have to get a new leasee and new signage?
It's considered abandoned if it's 180 days and the sign has no copy or has a copy from a previous tenant that is no longer on the site. And I think this sign meets those tests.
Okay.
I have a question.
Vice Mayor.
Oh, you said, hold on, Kirk.
It's Vice Mayor's going to, no, you need to let the Vice Mayor speak.
Hold on, please. So, what's up there now? Christ-like Services?
Christ-like Services.
All right, Christ-like Services, that's abandoned. They haven't been there for some time, correct?
Agreed.
Okay.
Well, no, the reason,
No, I don't know, and I don't, just, hold on there, big boy. All right, that one's been abandoned. The sign below it shouldn't be there, correct?
Which one?
The sign below it, Graphics Inc.'s.
Oh.
I don't want to talk
We
about who
understood it
told
was,
what to
but
whom.
go ahead.
I'm just saying it shouldn't be there. If that comes out, is it 180 days? Because the problem with, as I am starting to think about this now, the challenge could be you have two pieces of the same sign and you can't take down half the sign. I guess you could, but you're not going to take down half the sign. Does that now mean that if Graphics Inc. comes out, is it 180 days from that moment? Or because it should have never been there in the first place, it's an illegal sign? So it doesn't count. So the 180 days are up. Okay.
Well, staff considers it an abandoned sign with an illegal sign is on that abandoned post.
You can't just throw up a sign there and
No.
say, "Oops, it's another 180 days."
You don't get a benefit from putting up
Another sign that's not
illegal
supposed to be there in the
off-site
first
sign.
You might want to talk to Isabel.
So just a suggestion, if you do want to give the 2 more weeks, my
Yes.
suggestion would be you continue the public hearing for 2 weeks, if that's what you would like to do.
That gives him, then the notice thing will be, he'll have tons of notice.
I'm looking for an answer, a compromise, if you want to call it that. Tell me what you want up on those 2 signs. And I will tell you that the reason is if you.
Okay.
I don't think that's.
That's not on the agenda. That's not what we're going to do here, because there's no business there to put a sign up here. But you just told us you're going to put it for sale. The place is moving out. What we're really looking at is a sign that is a year defunct and having a business. The other sign's illegal. That's what we're looking at. So the question is, are you going to, and that's what I think he wants to know. Are we going to give him 2 weeks? He wants us to tell him what we're going to put on the sign, but we're not going to tell you what to put on that sign. What you as a council are going to be deciding is in 2 weeks, are you going to allow that sign to stay up, or at that time, or are you going to have it come down?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Kirk's, I mean, I don't know if you have, and I'm not asking you to give away any of your, business strategies here, but I mean, obviously, selling a property that has signage available is a more valuable commodity than selling a business that doesn't have signage, or you have to go through the process again to get it redone. So I'm looking at it as, all right, I'm not going to say it's not an abandoned sign because I think that's basically what we've established here today. However, if the property is going to be sold, do we contemplate giving 3 months, 6 months to find a new owner? And if they want to use the sign, then they would be able to do that, or just let a new business go through the entire process of putting in new signage?
Well, that's going to be a policy decision then. Are we going to allow every business that sells to leave their signage up?
And I would argue that most
3, 6,
do.
1 year.
I would argue most of them do.
Practical matter, so you know, both signs, we're going to say Graphic Inc.
Okay.
Once you're up in that bucket, it's pretty
Okay, Kirk,
Contractor wasn't happy.
Kirk, we've heard what you had to say. We appreciate it. Can you please sit down now? I'm closing that part. Closing arguments. Does anyone else want to comment on this item? Ruth Michelson.
It's just been so invigorating, the whole conversation. Ruth Michelson. So here's my comment. I couldn't possibly, as a citizen, follow all of that. Don't want to, don't need to. But I will say a few things, regardless, because Kirk is a very smart man. Kirk is an attorney. Kirk is on the Planning Commission. I feel as a citizen, you've given plenty of notice, and I think you need to enforce what the rules are. When Hangtown Leathers had their sign up 6 months after they were gone, or the sign was still up, you contacted the building owner and said, get that sign down, and the sign was taken down. I mean, all this maneuvering, all this working around, oh, I didn't get the notice on time. Look, this guy doesn't take any prisoners. You shouldn't either. It's a rule. You should enforce it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment? Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the council.
Okay, I have one more question. I don't know.
Who's your question for?
I think this question would probably be directed at Pierre. So if we have a property that has a signpost like this, all signs have been removed, and it's been for sale, and it's been for sale for more than 180 days, does that violate the signpost ordinance?
Yeah, I would think it would.
Okay, so any property that would be for sale for over 180 days would have to pull the signpost down.
That's what I heard.
Okay, so I think, yeah, I mean, coming from a real estate side of things, that kind of devalues the sale of a property by removing something that could actually be advertisement. I don't know if I would agree with that personally. I mean, I completely understand where the city's coming from on this. Yes, unfortunately, Kirk, the signs have been there illegally, so technically that sign has been there longer than it should be and should have been taken down a long time ago. But I think I'm trying to help you out here, buddy. But I think that if we can get the signs removed and it's actually going up for sale, I would be willing to give them the 180 days extension just to get the property sold, and hopefully somebody comes in and uses the sign. That would be at least my suggestion.
How many days are you going to give him to get those signs down? 2 days or 2 weeks?
I was being facetious.
To get the 2 signs down? I'd want to see a work order within the 2 weeks.
Further discussion?
I guess I would just say we did give the last pole sign abandoned 2 weeks, so I think it would be consistent to do that here as well, although I'm not sure what exactly will be gained by it, but yeah, it would be consistent with our last decision, and I do like consistency between decisions and giving an owner, that extra time as needed.
Okay, we gave that last owner 2 weeks to get an application in to put something else on the sign. What are you looking for in 2 weeks?
I think I would be looking for a plan related to sale of property and signage for a new owner or something along those lines. I mean, it's hard because of the property selling. It's kind of like, how do you treat that? But
Yeah.
I mean, if the signage, I mean, that's why I asked the question I did. If the signage was legal and this situation was happening, we would give them 180 days, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think going back to what David said, and I think where Nicole's trying to get to as well is it's not necessarily apples to apples with the other one because you had existing tenants in that.
And they wanted to put a sign up.
And whether they wanted to put one in, and we'll hear later whether they are or not. In fact, I think I talked to at least one of those property owners, and I don't think they sounded like they wanted to. But in this case, this is about potentially a building that's not going to have any tenants, and whether or not there's value in having a signage for a new prospective new tenant, even though we all know and understand that these signs have been up illegally for years. Now that we know, and what we do going forward is what's the most fair and best outcome for all of this? Is it just to tear it down, or is it to give some time in order to try to sell the property with the signage? I think that's the better option to do, and I think the 2 weeks is not so much that you're going to have a bill of sale in order in 2 weeks, but it's that you've effectuated somebody coming in to take the signs down, because we don't know what, as we all know, anyone that works on any type of construction or anything, it might be 6 months before somebody's available to come out and do something. But if you've actually started the process of getting it down, we know that there's actually that work is going to happen. And so my suggestion would be that in 2 weeks, that there is some sort of work order. It may not happen in 2 weeks, but that the work order is in place so that that actual signage will come down. And then from that point, or it can start today, there'd be 180 days to try to find a new seller. And if there's not a new seller within those 180 days, then the whole thing would come down. And the new owner would have to build a new sign if they wanted one.
Mayor, I think we should mention, I think I should have Pierre report on what the solution was on the Broadway sign. I feel like potentially, I'm not exactly sure, but that may have an impact on your decision with this. So, Pierre, why don't you go ahead and give that now?
Sure. So staff was able to get in touch with the manager of the property for the other, 1390 Broadway. That's the property that had the Insight sign that was there for many years. That was an abandoned sign for, I think, 12 years or something like that. It was quite substantial. The difference there is that particular sign was approved with the center under a site plan review conditional use permit. That's why it matches the architecture of the building. So it was felt that that was, a sign a little bit more in keeping with, let's just say, current code. So we did we did have a discussion with the property manager. The property manager spoke with the owner, and she requested some additional time to consult with the tenants. None of the tenants were interested in using the sign with their copy. So she went back to the property owner, and the property owner is now interested in using the sign to advertise the center. So they're trying to come up with a name. I think they're going to call it Broadway Centers. And they're going to put a Broadway Centers sign as the copy advertising the commercial center, which staff we're fine with that. It doesn't have to advertise an individual tenant. It can advertise the tenant or the commercial center. We have lots of signs in the town like that. So that's what they're doing. We gave the owner then 30 days to come with at least a contract or something showing the drawings that they're indeed going to move forward. So we're looking for good faith effort, and so far they have provided good faith effort to utilize that sign. So that's staff's report on that one.
Okay. So when you say that was a legal sign to begin with, was the one we're discussing here tonight a legal sign to begin with?
No, this was a legal sign. I believe the permit, it was issued in 1981. The issue with this one is it's doubtful that if the sign were removed that it would ever be authorized again because of the height of the sign. It would be through a conditional use permit, and they'd have to make the variance findings that you need to have a sign at that height and that location to advertise businesses on the premise. And I don't think we'd be able to make those findings.
So
it was an illegal sign to begin with. I didn't.
No, it wasn't illegal.
It was a legal sign to begin with. It was under a building
yeah,
permit.
right. So if Mr. Smith wanted to name it the Green Valley Center, could he put that up there? And would that?
He could name his center and put
that up there.
Copy up there.
Which would be better than a blank sign.
I
We
think
have
that would
other
be much
such
better
signs
than a
that
blank sign.
Advertise a center.
And given I don't think Kirk, forgive me. I have lunch with Kirk periodically, and this sign almost always gets mentioned. Not by me, by the way. And so I've learned a lot about the sign over the years. So if he did that, then he could call it I'm not a creative person, but Green Valley Center. Slap that bad boy up there, and the sign is good to go.
Yeah, the other point I want to make is he does have other tenants on that property.
Yes, that's true.
that
He
if
does.
they
yes.
wanted to.
Yeah, that's
wanted to
true,
put
they
their
could.
sign up there, it would be a legal sign at that point.
As Myers and
Example-
Sons drywall.
For example, the drywall, Meyer drywall, and they've been there for quite some time, I know, so. Anyway, they have some options if you want to consider.
Ooh, there we go. That's even better than the other.
Okay, does someone want to make an actual motion?
No, I don't want to. I think we need to.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I originally said, because to me, whether or not he puts his own thing on there or they're both blank, I really don't care.
They can't be blank.
Well, because we're not going to, it's just like, when Office Max went out, we're not going to, if it takes 6 months to fill that sign, we're not going to have them take down the entire sign because one's blank, where it has like El Forastero and other stuff in there.
Right.
So we have multiple tenants, and they sometimes have people that are probably gone
Right.
beyond 180 days.
Yeah.
So you're not going to
But none of the
we're gonna
tenants
leave
that
one
are
blank.
currently there have their name in the sign.
Agree, but there's going to be times when there's going to be a blank sign. I mean, there's got to be, there's consistency, but then there's reductio ad absurdum as well. So we have to be able to work within those possibilities of things.
Okay.
So again, I think 2 weeks, either take the signs down, put something else up, whatever, and then 180, if nothing goes up, then 180 days, I would offer 180 days to either, has to be in escrow or both signs come down, the entire pole comes down. That would be my motion.
I'll second it so that you guys can discuss.
Our attorney would like to say something.
So just to be clear, the motion is to continue this hearing for
No.
2 weeks? No.
No. The motion is to give the property owner 2 weeks to cure the situation, and by curing it, he would either have to do one of two things. Either one, rename it the Green Valley Center or whatever it wants to be, the Kirk Smith Center, or two, take them down, take both signs down so that they were blank, and then he would have 180 days to sell the property, or go into escrow, and then if those 180 days pass, he's not in escrow, then the sign would then be deemed illegal and it would have to be removed.
So my recommendation would still be to continue this item, because the item before you that was on the agenda was the resolution to declare the signs a nuisance.
Understood.
So if he fails to act within the 2 weeks that you're looking to give him to act on this, you'd still have something to fall back on.
Because if he doesn't act, then the sign comes down.
Okay, so we'd have to renotice it with
If you continue the hearing, you don't have to renotice.
but why can't we do a solution tonight, though, if that's the case? What's the difference between 2 weeks if the solution is different than what's on the agenda?
So I guess my question would be, is if he hasn't brought something into staff in 2 weeks, you're saying, then staff can proceed with the abatement? Or if he's made it blank? One, bring something in to say that he's going to take the sign copy down, or if he brings something in to say, I'm going to put this sign up to make it legal.
Well, it would be two things, because if it was blank, then there's an and on the blank, because
Then you
the
get
and would
180
be, it
days.
has to go into escrow within 180 days.
Understand. But the point is, if he does neither one of those, then we would start abatement proceedings. In other words, the resolution.
Correct. If there was,
Can they
if,
adopt the resolution with that contingency?
I don't think we can have a conditional resolution. That's why I think we'd need to come back after a set period.
I just don't see what 2 weeks later does to that resolution any different than what it would be tonight. But maybe I'm just thinking at it wrong.
It gives us the time, I think, for the applicant not to be responsive, in which case we're back to just adopting our resolution as is.
Yeah.
Correct.
The 2 weeks is also just a suggestion that had been made based on how you handled a similar circumstance in the past. You could continue it for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I
Right.
feel like that amount of time would be.
But I mean, in a quasi-judicial hearing, though, don't we have the option to give different outcomes? We're not just confined to the option in front of us in a quasi-judicial hearing.
That's true.
Correct.
So why would we have to come back in 2 weeks?
I guess what we're saying is, in order for us to
I
move
just
forward.
want to, my goal is to
Let's
have
say
this
that
done tonight.
Yeah, If he does nothing in 2 weeks, we have to have that resolution adopted. Right now, it's not adopted.
Right.
We can't move forward with abatement without that resolution being adopted.
Right.
That's the concern. Can we adopt that tonight? I don't think we're saying that. We would have to come back and adopt that in.
Okay, understood. That makes different. Yes, that's a different thing then. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So,
Do you want to include continuing for 2 weeks in that motion then? Or-
yes, I will add that language.
Okay.
I'll
Amend your
amend my second.
Okay. Can I have any more discussion?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gottberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici,
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye. Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break and start again at 7 o'clock. Hey, everyone. Let's have staff back to the podium. Let's take our seats in the audience. We're going to stay on task and keep this meeting moving. All right. Discussion action items. 12.1. Oh, shoot, we didn't get through 11.2 yet? All right, 11.2. Consider approving the engineer's report for the Cottonwood Park and Orchard Hill Landscaping and Lighting Maintenance Districts and directing NBS to prepare and submit the levy assessments to El Dorado County for the placement of the fiscal year 24-25 secured property tax roll. Mr. Warren.
Good evening, Mayor No, members of the council. So this is a routine item, part 2 of a 2-part series. Part 1 occurred at your meeting held on April 23rd when the council adopted a resolution declaring its intention to provide annual levy and collection of assessments for the city's landscaping lighting maintenance districts as required by state streets and highways code. Part 2 requires the council to hold public hearing, which is scheduled for tonight, and adopt a resolution approving the 2 engineers' reports that are included in your packet. The city currently has 2 LLMD districts, Orchard Hill and Cottonwood Park. The engineer reports for both districts present status quo budgets and levy amounts. The current levy level of assessments for both districts are adequate in covering the basic costs for operating both and maintaining the districts. It's important to note that neither district has a built-in inflator to help offset the rising cost of maintaining the identified lighting, parks, open space, and the actual cost of maintaining each district far exceeds the maximum annual assessments. In response to the council's request, staff began exploring options for updating the LMD assessment districts and implementing an annual inflator that would increase the assessments based on the annual change in the consumer price index. The city obtained a proposal from its consultant MBS to update the Orchard Hill LMD, including performing a special and general benefit analysis in order to increase the assessments. The cost of the proposal was $29,500 plus any customary out-of-pocket expenses. This base cost is actually $9,036 more than the annual assessments, which totaled $20,464. Because the Orchard Hill LMD does not have any reserves, the $29,500 proposal was determined to be cost prohibitive. Staff has decided to take a hybrid approach and perform the study in-house with MBS's assistance, which should cost much less. Staff plans on presenting an update to the council this fall. At its meeting held on December 12th, 2023, the City Council approved Ordinance 1713, which authorized the levy of special tax assessments for the Cottonwood Park Phases 4 and 6 Maintenance and Service Community Facilities District. The associated tax assessments will be used to pay for the maintenance and operation of the district's streets, storm drains, its proportional share of Duffy Park, and associated administrative costs. The new CFD has an annual inflator which will help associated assessments keep up with rising costs. Staff plans on adding the new tax assessment to the property tax rolls effective this coming fiscal year 24-25. So tonight we respectfully request the council to approve the LMD assessments by adopting the resolution as presented. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Seeing none, I'm going to open this item to public comment. 11.2.
Sue Rodman, I am really glad to see us, instead of just doing a new consultant to do this, that the staff is going to do at least half of this in-house and save us some money. So, hooray for our staff.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will bring this back to the council.
Move staff recommendation.
A second.
Can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gottberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye. Okay, we will move to item 12, 12.1. Consider adding the Girls' Night Out and the Sugar Skull Art Walk to the list of Main Street special events that warrant Main Street closures during calendar year 2024. Mr. Ewell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Purpose of this discussion is to seek direction regarding the addition of 2 special events on Main Street. There are 2 downtown special events, Girls' Night Out and Sugar Skull Art Walk, that have not required full street closures in the past, but continue to grow in popularity, prompting event organizers to seek assistance from the city to implement full street closures similar to those provided by the city for other city-sponsored special events. If approved, Main Street special event street closures will increase from 7 to 9. Each street closure necessitates additional resources and personnel from the Community Services Department, Police, and Public Works. The cost for providing city services as requested is estimated to be $5,536.31 for Girls' Night Out and $4,928.77 for Sugar Skull Art Walk, for a total estimated cost of $10,465.08. Both events will occur within the city's fiscal year 24-25 budget cycle. If both requests are approved, an additional $10,465.08 will be needed to be added to the general fund budget to cover the associated costs. If it is determined not to close the street, staff can work with both applicants on alternative options for their events. Girls' Night Out could be asked to limit the number of event bags sold, thus reducing the attendance. And city staff could facilitate a bell tower closure area for them. The Sugar Skull Art Walk could be reduced to a rolling street closure for the progression with the bell tower area closure. The financial impacts of these alternatives is relatively insignificant. It's more just the number of people in attendance. Other options are outlined in your staff report. Staff is looking for direction regarding the following questions. Does the city want to allow 2 additional street closures on Main Street this fall? Does the city want to subsidize the cost of the requested road closures fully or partially? If a full road closure is not approved, can a partial closure be approved for Bell Tower and Stagecoach Alley? Both event organizers are in the audience tonight, and we are both happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the council?
Yes. Now, if I remember correctly, to the last time we talked about this, the idea would be that the Girls' Night Out event, because it says in the staff report it's going to go from 7 to 9, but the classic car show is muerta. And so I thought that at least the Girls' Night Out event could take the place of the classic car show. So we would be a net of 1 additional if we were to approve them both. Correct or not?
That's correct.
Okay.
We would,
Okay.
yes. One of those 2 could replace the
And
car show.
even though we're not supposed to commingle our agenda items, please bear with me. I need to refresh my memory for the next one. Oh, that's the block party thing. Okay, that's different. Okay. Okay. So we're talking about a net increase of 1. Now, I know there's other issues here, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there so that it's not 2, it's 1. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
So we're looking at 8 events, not 9.
9.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I actually, yeah, I'm a little tongue-tied because I do feel a little Groundhog Day-ish here.
I do want to make one suggestion, and I'm gonna, this is kind of an all-encompassing for us as a city council to consider having all Main Street event applications due by December and having those come back in January or that first February meeting so that we stop doing this because.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and just a hard stop. This is the last time we're doing this. All events need to be figured out at the beginning of the year. I mean, right now we have park staff doing this, but they're also opening the parks. They're getting recreation and programs going. They're in the middle of budgeting season, and we're having them do this. So it makes more sense to have this done in the wintertime. Let's get the applications in. That's going to include, you know, everything on Main Street, you know, the art walk, the carriage rides, the high school events, everything that happens on Main Street so that we're not looking at things left and right, that we just can have one big picture of what we're doing. So
No,
I'm just recommending we add that direction in whatever motion we make because I think we're all frustrated. I think the public's frustrated. I think we need to get this streamlined and.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the challenges too is it puts the council in a position of like thumbs up, thumbs down on certain things, and it would be nice
Without
to
the
be able to think
context.
about it more organized and in context, and of course if we got everything in February, then we can consider additional requests as part of the budget, which is critical too. You know, I mean we have to start thinking about this from a budget standpoint. So I like the idea.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. And I think that was great statement because I completely agree. I think we need to stop. I think this is, you know, I've been doing this every single year, so I'm more than happy to have here's the deadline and here's where we go from here. On this one, and this is, you know, for me, second and third hand, but my understanding was that this was discussed at a staff level and that partial closures or rolling closures or those types of things ultimately weren't as optimal of an option. So I'm just concerned why there are options again, if that's the case, or is it because we can? I mean, I know we can do what we want to do, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here because I was like. I perked up when I heard rolling closure in Stagecoach Alley because that was sort of the original, I thought, at least for one of these. But
I think both of those kind of before we've done them just in the bell tower, and I think that's why these items were separated. Right, we're dealing with ones that have not been street closures for the last few years, right now, whereas Block Party has been, and I think that's the reason we're taking them separately because this is an expansion.
Right, and I guess for me, so I guess what I'm saying is, and I'm going to put staff a little bit on the spot here, but is there an optimal option for you? I mean, that's what I'm looking for is what do you consider the most optimal? I'm not saying whether to do it or not. I'm saying if we're going to do it, what do you consider the most optimal option?
Our recommendation, as is in the staff report, is that we do full road closure. You're right in that. We still did include it as an option because I guess it could be, but if you want to ask our police chief and discussing with him, his recommendation was that with the number of people we're estimating for both events, we don't know exactly what Sugar Skull is going to grow to, but we do believe it's going to grow, that it is not good, not safe, I'll put it that way, to have that without a full road closure. We looked at options of being able to do the procession as a rolling closure, but and there was talk about, well, could you do that just in one lane? I said, you've got kids in that procession, et cetera, you've got traffic coming. I didn't see how we could do that. And so in the end, we came back to, even after we had met with them, and determined that the only safe way to do that was to look at the full road closure if we want to
Okay.
allow
Okay.
the.
Thank you. That's helpful to me, because I want to.
I have a couple of questions too, because I know that for this year, the girls' night out special event will be in the fall-ish? When does it happen?
September 7th.
September,
Is
thank
the
you,
proposed
September.
date.
But that after this year, it will go to the sometime in June,
Or May, or.
whenever, but it won't be in September.
Let me clarify. We did ask them that, and you can ask them.
Yeah.
When we met with them, the person we met with said,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, but I'll have to take it back to my committee. We did not get a formal answer back from them on that, if they were willing to do that. I do know that in years past, early on, the girls' night out was actually held in the spring, and then it moved to the fall. But
I feel I must, because why not? You know, we used to have more events, and I don't want to get into how the more events are now the events. But one of the challenges was for events that are in that late August and then going up and through November and into because you've got tourist traffic in the fall, especially in the fall, the tourist traffic, Tahoe traffic, and then Apple Hill starts to gear up, and it seems like Apple Hill gears up earlier every year. And we would have traffic jam. When we closed the road on Main Street, you would end up with these like horrific traffic jams. It is what spurred Trip to Green in many respects, to try to mitigate the fact that, because unlike, I always like when people say, oh, just close Main Street, but there's only two ways to get through town. And really there's only one way to get through town, and that's Main Street. Because even if you take Pacific Street, you have to come down to Main Street, or I guess you can go up around the airport, and people do that, by the way. But it all ends up in the same spot, and it ends up being a parking lot. And then on Broadway and everywhere. Main Street is a critical piece of car moving infrastructure in the town. And we would have these events in August, and some of them were not, at least in my own humble opinion, were not particularly well attended. And then we would have these traffic problems. So there was a reason why we went through, long story short, reason we went through this whole process. And now it just seems like we're migrating back to the same place. So, that having been said, I am happy, and maybe not for this year because the die's been cast and there's things going on. Of these two things, somebody needs to move to June or May or something, and the one event can't be because it's literally the 2nd of November every year. And I have some thoughts about that as well. Not about the 2nd, but that. And so I'm okay with, and we still have to talk about money and all the other stuff, but I'm okay with the idea of the girls' night out taking that date that used to be for the car show around the time that the car show used to be. If we start mucking around with September and October again, I'm sorry, unless traffic patterns change dramatically, those kinds of events in town, in my opinion, and one of the things that folks that do events on Main Street need to understand, there's 9,000 other people, 10,000 other people that live in this city, and you may not hear about it, but I hear about it when we have these real bad traffic situations in town. What are you going to do? Why are you doing that? Why? Closing Main Street is not universally loved by everyone. And we have to be responsive to everybody in this town. Plus, we're going to have a fire safety report here at some meeting in the not too distant future. And the fall is critical fire season. Anyway, that all being said, so that's my thing about the girls' night out, the car show slot, blah, blah, blah. Just the event of it. One thing, and the Sugar Skull thing was huge, and I loved it. I would participate in it. I thought it was great. And I do believe it's going to get bigger. We have to go have a real come to Jesus meeting with the folks downtown, though, because in some years, closing again on Halloween and on the 2nd, 2 days later, won't be a big deal. It'll be like during the middle of the week. This year, I believe it's going to be Thursday and Saturday in November. And we already heard about how business is down and blah, 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 and all that good stuff. Really important information. That's 2 days in November. And some of those days are going to fall on a weekend. That's just the way the calendar works. I would like to have some idea that when we are starting to do this, we won't have people lined up there talking about how it's mucking up shopping time. Okay? Those are
Okay.
my real huge concerns about this whole issue.
Okay, I just want to point out, because I called and had conversations with staff earlier and doing all those things. I just like to point out that the Sugar Skull event is from 5 to 8. So it's typically after our businesses are closed, and for a street closure at 4.
So you're going to close it at 4 for an event that's an hour later?
5:30. Sorry, 5:30. So we're going to close it at 4 for an event that's at 5:30.
On a Saturday?
So typically, if you have businesses that close at 5, we're only talking an hour earlier than they close.
But that's I mean, I understand.
I know. I'm just talking it through.
I understand, but I'm just saying.
Because that's my issue when I look at requests for a 1 p.m. closure, a 2 p.m. closure, all the rest of the merchants who are going to yell at us.
Right.
Who already have yelled at us and aren't going to come to these meetings anymore.
No, I get it.
Because we've already been through this over and over and over again.
And if the case is this, if the case is they come back and say, yes, because this event is more in the evening and they're going to close it and I shut my doors at 5:30 and I won't care, then that's fine. I just want to hear it. I want to hear it because.
But yeah, to the mayor's point, I think we're going to get less and less businesses willing to come because of previous discussions where then it was like, well, we're going to boycott those businesses if you don't want us, to close down the street. And so then you had businesses not willing to say anything. So you get kind of hit from both sides. But we all know we do hear it from individual businesses that they don't like the road closures.
Not only, but we've asked and they've told us, and how many times do we expect them to keep saying it? I mean, here's the reality. People come up and they tell us, oh, events help the businesses. The businesses would really want all these events if it helped their bottom line that much. There's the reality. They'd be banging on our door saying, bring more events, do more, do more, do more, and that's not what the rest of everyone is saying. We hear it, and like you said, we're not going to say the names of the businesses and whatever because...
it would be horrible.
Yeah, it would be horrible.
And I'm not trying to make a problem. I'm just
No.
saying that when
Okay, so we
when
brought
we've
up
done
those
these things
points.
in the past, that has happened. And so I'm okay with it. I don't own a business on Main Street. I don't have this problem. I liked going to the Sugar Skull thing. My wife loves girls' nights out. She goes with her friends.
Let's get back to the nuts and bolts then.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's a nuts. To me, closing the road 2 days and 3 days in November is a nuts and bolts thing.
Okay.
Maybe I'm the only person that feels that.
No. We're here to talk about it, and like I said, the trick or treat is not on the agenda tonight. Only the Sugar Skull is.
I understand.
I'm okay with it because it's an evening event. It's not asking to close Main Street, basically during the day. But we do need to talk about the points because honestly, I think both Girls' Night Out and our block party need to move back to May, June, July, however they want to do that. For all the reasons you've stated. So the question is, A, are we going to allow it this year? B, we need to talk about, are we going to pay for it? Because that's a request on one of those. And I would say my one thing with the Girls' Night Out is they're calling for a request to close at 2. I would really like to push that to 3. No, wait. Yeah, we're on Girls' Night Out. I mean, I realize, can they push their event back to start at 4, close at 3, start at 4, just to help all your other fellow merchants and the people who do have issues. So those are kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I'm also very much on line with you of we should look at all events together, and I'm sort of one of the things I struggle with here is that I look at Girls' Night Out and the block party as similar events, and we're getting requests for very, very similar timing, less than 2 weeks apart. So, I think the Sugar Skull Art Walk is like a very important community event. I went last year. I do think it's going to grow. I think it is set to a specific date based on, cultural tradition. I don't really think we can move that, and I do think it is a more evening-focused event that has a lower impact on businesses. I think, and traffic for that matter. I think when you talk to businesses, it's highly dependent on what type of business you are, right? If you're a hair salon, the impact on you is drastically different than if you're a restaurant. So, your feeling about a business, if you're a Main Street business owner, depends a lot on what type of business you are operating and what impact that has on your financials. I also think, I talk to my neighbors, I talk to my friends who live in the city, and I get, 20% are like the people out here who are organizing these events, who love these events, who are totally into it. About 20% are like, oh my gosh, terrible, I don't like it at all. And the remainder are kind of indifferent. Like if they happen to be in town and events going on, maybe they'll come down. So, that's just, my personal survey of neighbors and friends. But it's a pretty wide variety of the residents in Placerville on kind of where they stand. So, I think we haven't had public comment yet. I'm going to reserve any further discussion kind of related to that, but I want to make sure that sort of folks know where I'm coming from kind of going in so that they can have a ability to comment around that.
I'll make just comments in terms of because the other one of the points is on the costs. And we've gone round and round with all these. I think from my perspective, and I'll hear what everyone else has to say, is I think I'm okay with subsidizing them this year because I feel like we're deep into it already, and we've sort of crossed that. We've gone over that bridge already. However, to the point that the mayor made, I think everything has to be on the table for next year, and we have to start trying to true up the cost of these things going forward and have a lot more of a share, and really looking at all these events, and can you, even to the point of, can you combine Festival of Lights and Christmas parade, and you start at 4:00 and you go to like 9, so you do more of an evening type of a parade, and then you do the tree lighting, so you're only closing the street down once and not twice during the middle of Christmas season, which is the busiest time for, I think, all of our merchants. So I know there's some sacred cows, but if it's all about the dollar, about making it, then maybe we don't have 2 closures in November and December, right, 1 week after each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll just echo that. I know that's something I've talked to the city manager about multiple times, and that those 2 events just make a lot of sense to combine. So I think we should have that discussion. It's outside the scope of today, but yes. I think she would certainly talk about it.
Okay, I just want to have a transparency point. If we were to approve and agree to pay for all 3 of these events, I realize one's the next item, but it would be $18,179 for those 3 events. Just so everybody knows exactly the numbers we're talking about, because we're going to have a really fun budgeting meeting tomorrow, you guys.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, and I know we haven't gotten to that point yet, budget-wise. But I mean, at this point, we're only budgeted for certain events, correct, Dave?
It's a mixed answer. So
it's not what I was looking for.
Long-standing events where the city has participated more, just public-wide events, the Christmas parade, tree lighting, those kind of things.
Trick-or-treating.
Where those costs are kind of baked into our budget,
okay.
Most costs. But there has been some fundraising on those events as well, and there's been nonprofits with their assistance. So tomorrow night we'll have more information for you, what those costs are of all the events and potential fundraising activities.
Okay. So with that kind of being said, budget-wise, I mean, yeah, I'm of the fact that if it's not already in the budget, then these events need to be able to pony up. And if they want a street closure, this is what it costs us. This is what it costs the community. So and they are both growing. I don't know what their cost event is, or if they can afford to do this. I'm sure we'll hear from them about this. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the street closures this year as everybody is asking. I'm pretty sure that at this point, with Girls' Night Out being in, what is it, September?
Yeah.
Yeah, September. They probably already have dates and times and tickets and all that kind of stuff been advertised and preset. So, but going into next year, yes, definitely everybody's got to have their application in by December of this, end of this year. We go through the whole thing, we set everybody up, and then certain people need to be willing to move to other time slots to make this a little more efficient. And then cost-wise, there's going to be a cost involved with doing street closures that the city just can't afford to take care of every single time that somebody wants to put in a new event. So that's my thought.
Yes.
Other questions, comments before I open it to the public? Okay, this item is open to public comment. Come on up and tell us what you think.
Hi, Council. I'm Melinda Velasco with the Sugar Skull Art Walk. And as we said before, if the city can't cover the cost, I know that Councilmember Zaragoza has suggested that this year maybe the city covers it, but even if it doesn't happen this year, we can cover it. So we can cover the cost. We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
We can, Brenda Quintana, Sugar Skull Art Walk, we can cover the cost, absolutely, but we also want to we want to make sure that we're treated just like everybody else. I mean, the demographics in this town are changing. The demographics in El Dorado County have changed as well. So there's more folks who appreciate the culture and want to come out and celebrate it. So we want to make sure that you guys understand that and keep that in mind, but we will pay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to include that as a cultural event. And this is something that we made a conscious choice to do, is to make sure that there are no costs to attending. There's no cost to coming and participating in any of the activities or the music or even being fed. We provide food and it's all free of cost. So I think that's something I'd like you guys to know about too. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
This gives me a chance to stretch my legs. Thank you. Yeah, I don't care about how you do it, but this is a great event. But I wouldn't want to think of it as just one event. There should be more of them. There should be lots of them to celebrate the history of this community. The Chinese were one of the largest groups here. Red-winged blackbirds, pheasants, the bird of heaven, the tree of heaven, persimmons, they all came from the Chinese. They built the South Fork Canal. They built the canal system that we have, nearly 600 miles, that enabled water to be brought into dry diggings and prompted the name Placerville, placer mining. Likewise, it's not just Mexicans that were here, people from Chile. The people from China were forced out, and that's what happened to Chinatown, why they assembled there. So I'd like to see more events like that, and that's why I celebrate doing this, is it's just a first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Jenny Levitsky. And I'm sorry, last time, a couple times I didn't address you guys, so thank you for all you do. I don't know your names. But I'm for all these events. I think they're a really important part of building a small town's character, and so many small towns have just died and gone out, and I think it's a lot because there aren't community events like this. I completely agree with your idea of having a deadline, and I also think, just as a concept or an idea, that if you take out the few months that you that aren't good months to have events, other than Christmas, and obviously the events that have to be on a specific day, and then you figure out how many months are available, and you kind of do a lottery for the events that don't have to happen on a specific day. And that lottery has to happen, the event has to get assigned in that month, like one a month, because there might be 3 or 4 months that you don't want to do anything with. That leaves 8 months of the year. If we have 8 events budgeted or scheduled, then, you know, one a month, or maybe there's a month or two where there's a couple that are 3 weeks apart, but maybe a lottery, and then I think everybody will be happy.
Great, thank you.
Ruth Michelson. Yeah, I took some notes. I appreciate everything that was said and the thoughtful conversation. I just wanted to step back for a minute. You know, I hear you saying how this is getting old to keep talking about it, and it is, right? It's hard for everybody, hard for you, hard for those of us in the audience. But I think it's good to step back a little bit and realize that when Terry Zeller took this over a couple of years ago, you were relieved of a lot of this discussion, because he was put in charge and he dealt with all of us and he made it all balance out. And I think the shift that's gone on here, we have Steve Yule, who's great to work with, and we've been working with him on our event, but we all know that he's temporary and was brought back from retirement, and now you're going to be having yet another person that you'll be recruiting into the position. And my hope is that when you recruit the new person into the position, that you will be relieved of some of this grind of talking about all the nuance of all these events, because you as a city council have so many other things to deal with as well. And I thought it was really great when you delegated this to a person in that position. So that's one thing I want to say. Let's see, quickly, just pointing out the differences of some of these events. Girls' Night Out is very, very clever. It's a very rich event. They raised $30,000. They have a really good approach at selling their goodie bags for $30 a piece, and there's 1,000 sold. That's a $30,000 budget, and they make it very public, that budget, and they do spend it wisely, but you know, they spend like $6,000 on printing, et cetera. So I think when you're looking at events, while you're in this position of looking so closely at events, you might want to see how we've got some shoestring events, and then we have some very well, cleverly funded events like Girls' Night Out, which is in a very different position financially. And also the other thing is, you know, you have this model where alcohol events used to be a zero-sum game. I brought this up before to you in letters and such, a zero-sum game that the alcohol events helped pay for. The poorer events that didn't have this monetary ability to raise money, for whatever reason, those alcohol events haven't raised the money they had in the past, and now it's back to the city. You see, this didn't have to be in the budget because there was no need for the city to pay. The events themselves paid for each other. It was, do you understand what I'm saying? And when we talk about this next event, the block party, talking about how that's an alcohol event that'll hopefully make money, and I'm almost out of time, so really quick. Yeah, some merchants won't like events, but they're only looking at the day. You're always going to get complaints when people say it wasn't a good business day for me today. But we do this for creating an atmosphere where people will want to come back. And I do like the idea of what, okay, thank you. I don't want to take too much time.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, and Council. My name is Jared, and I work and represent the businesses Treehouse and Matty Wags on Main Street. I think closing the Bell Tower Triangle is a good compromise for Sugar School, and they never spoke with merchants regarding our thoughts and how another Q4 street closure 2 days after Halloween every year is going to be very hard to deal with. Excuse me. I've worked in fourth quarter after Halloween, and I truly feel Main Street cannot afford to lose any more than it has in these tough economic times. Why would we add another closure to Q4 during Apple Hill season? It makes no sense to jeopardize business on a Saturday during busy season. I would highly suggest for this closure to not happen because 4 p.m. is a very busy time on Main Street. Our stores are likely to stay open until 8 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. so. Oh, you're right, you're right.
Sue Rodman, greetings, City Council and Mayor. I like Girls' Night Out, but I think it's really not a good fit for September. September is fire season. Anybody remember the Caldor fire? Remember the when we had Tripter Green actually working to do the evacuation? You're setting yourself up when you're trying to do something. And the 1st of September, you've got the kids going back to school. You've got everybody has just come back from vacation. You've got Labor Day. That's not a good time. Oktoberfest is also in September. So what are you going to do here? I mean, it just, you end up with these things stacked on top of each other week after week after week. And that was the problem we tried to get away from back in 2022? When we decided, okay, 7 events is enough on Main Street to close the street down. Well, if we go up to 8, I don't see any problem with that, and we did get rid of the classic car show in June. So, but that was too close to Wagon Days anyway. And now we're doing, the block party is requested for August. Then you want to have Girls' Night Out in September. What happened to May? April and May, we don't have anything happening. So you go from Christmas all the way to June before anything happens in this town. That's crazy. Girls' Night Out could be done in April or May, and it would be a great time. But having it in September, I don't think that's a great idea. I think that if you're going to have these things, people, Jackie, I really like your idea of having a set time. Everybody, if you want to have an event on Main Street, you get your application in December. It goes through, and the last speaker who said do a lottery for the months. I'm not sure we need to do a lottery. There's some months that aren't going to be very good no matter what. I mean, we get our most rainy season in January, February, and March. Those are the big rainy season days. But if you want to go into late April, May, great time. June, you've already got the wagon train, and it comes through every June, so let's not stack anything on top of it. Then you got September, you have Oktoberfest. That's in the middle of fire season as well. So I think there's some things that aren't getting considered here. Sugar Skull, I think, is a wonderful event, and it's got a set day. You can't move that one.
Thank you, Sue.
Christmas is set. So,
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring this back to the council. I just want to make a couple points. I think more events is a wonderful idea. We have fairgrounds, we have the Carl Borelli Amphitheater, we have other places that we can have more events. When we have them on Main Street, they're costly. They take up a lot of staff time. A lot of that staff time is our park and rec time, and I'm constantly frustrated with the time that our parks don't get, and that's because we're dedicating all that time for that staff to Main Street. So I just want to point those things out.
And there's this desire about like moving things around, but if you look at the events, I personally, and I want to really reinforce this idea. I think that the parade and the lighting ceremony should be one thing, and I think an evening parade, they do it in Auburn, and it is the coolest thing in the world. I mean, that thing, I participated in one year because I did a little work in Auburn, this many years ago now, and it's great. It's also like a third rail issue sometimes, and it's not, and we're not talking about that tonight. But you cannot change most of these dates. Oktoberfest, even though it's in September, is in September. The Halloween usually falls at the end of October. The 2nd of November almost always falls on the 2nd of November. And some sort of a Christmas thing is going to happen around Christmas. So you literally cannot move. And then the wagon train, has been pointed out, comes through in June. And that, or those, I mean, I guess it could come through some other time in the summer, but it usually comes through in June. So you're really only talking about 2 events that have any kind of malleability in terms of the dates that they can be done. And that's the Girls' Night Out and the block party. Now, I know it's another agenda item, but I understand the block party. This year could be really weird because we have a whole bunch of dates stacked up. Because the block party, and we can't really talk about that.
Yeah. Can I just ask one really quick question?
Sure.
Is there anyone here from Girls' Night Out? Okay, I just wanted to check.
Okay. This year we might have to bite the bullet because, and I know I'm referencing something that's another agenda item. For some weird reason, the block party is asking to go to August, I think, or some date because something happened and they couldn't get it together for June or something.
August 24th.
August 24th.
And we don't have any other events in August.
The Girls' Night Out thing is going to happen when it normally happens this year because of the timing of everything. I think it should go to sometime in the spring.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
everybody agrees that these two
That.
events need to move to the spring. The question
Right.
is, what are we going to do this fall?
Well, I mean, I think to show that we love Main Street and downtown, I think we bite the bullet, we stack them all up, and we make the road closures. I also think that they should pay for them. That's what I think.
City manager,
Yeah.
were you going to say something? It looked like you were going
Yeah.
to.
Just quickly, I want to clarify, there was a statement made about the maybe we were only having 2 of the 3 pay. Our recommendation is that all 3 pay their costs. So I just
What's,
want to,
the other one is the block party thing.
yes.
Okay, but that's not in this. That's
Right, but all 3 events are on there. Our recommendation, just so it's
Yeah.
clear from staff, is that all 3 events pay for their costs that
Yes.
are
Right.
allocated to them. So,
if you can.
So-
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I would say I'm kind of in a similar lane in terms of allowing the events this year only, with the understanding that Block Party and Girls' Night Out will not be allowed after this year in the fall, and they're going to have to move if they want to have street closures moving forward. In terms of costs, I guess I look at it a little differently in that I feel like, particularly the Sugar Skull Art Walk, I feel like it is a very similar to Halloween or the Christmas events, which are cultural events that we do pay for, and I don't want to treat them differently. And I understand they're new, but I don't want to treat them differently than the other cultural events. Girls' Night Out and Block Party are not cultural events, and they do bring in money, as was pointed out. So I guess I feel kind of differently about those in terms of who should pay and who should not pay, and consistency. I don't want to treat the holiday parade differently than the Sugar Skull Art Walk, but I'm open to discussion on that, but that's sort of where I'm standing or leaning in the rationale behind it.
I hear what you're saying, Nicole. I think it's difficult that we're not looking at all these together. That's my frustration with it. My personal thing is to have each event pay for themselves this year, and then in next year, when we look at all of the events all together, we'll decide what we really feel are our events and what we're going to pay for and what we're not going to pay for. But when I look at these bills coming to me, these are big bills, and we haven't even balanced the budget yet, to my knowledge. So that's kind of where I'm standing, is that they are new events, they're growing events, that they pay for themselves this year, and to revisit that conversation I am open to, but I want to have it as a whole discussion, not one at a time.
And I guess maybe to sort of align the idea, because I agree with you in some respects. The only one of the, I mean, I don't know, I mean, there's been a Christmas parade for a long time, holiday parade, whatever we're calling it now, Christmas parade. The tree lighting ceremony, that started back in the 90s, I think Dennis was telling me once that started. So they've been things for a while. And the Halloween thing has been going on for, I think, maybe longer than any of those other things. I think they were doing Halloween parades in the 80s, I think, here in town. But those were things that the city actually did. I mean, the city was the person that did it. So we could ask ourselves to pay, or I guess we go out and get sponsorships for them. But I think there is a little bit of a difference, small difference, in that those three things have always been things that the city kind of did. So there was never anybody else doing it. I mean, other people sponsored them, other people sometimes organized them. Like the McIntyres used to organize the Christmas parade. And then later was the Mountain Democrat, and then the Taylors took it over. But the city was always kind of the underpinning of all of that, okay? And I don't know if the McIntyres paid money or anything. I don't know what they did. I don't know what the Taylors did. I guess Cleve might. And what's kind of funny, it's interesting, is them and the Sugar Skulls all kind of come from the same cultural starting point, in terms of the spiritual side of it. They're all sort of that end of things. So anyway, but I think we should. I think we need to get. We can't afford it. Long story short, we can't afford it.
I have a staff clarification because I sort of remember, and since there's nobody from the girls' night out here, there's nobody to ask, so I can only go on what staff conversations have been. But if I recall, my understanding was that girls' night out, basically, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, is they couldn't afford to pay for it. Is that accurate? I mean, do we know that, or I've heard not testimony, but public comments from
Girls' Night
Sugarsville.
Out charges tickets, so all they got to do is tag
No,
on.
I understand, but my understanding was that I get that. I just wanted to see what the conversation was.
I have not heard them say that they cannot afford that.
Okay.
Steve, have you heard anything?
I think they were reluctant to want to pay that.
Well, of course they are. Everybody in the room is reluctant.
But they didn't flat out say no.
That's okay. Yeah,
that's a big club. I think we need to put the question to them, and we need to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, they should.
They should be here
They
to
should
have
be
this
here.
discussion.
Well, that's true,
so
too.
I'm okay making that decision without them. It's their choice not to be here.
I totally agree with that, and we've had that I mean, I've said that before for other applicants on things, or if you're not here, how
And just so you know, we sent the agenda item to them last week when it came out, so they did have that. And then we also sent the revised budget to them today as a reminder. So,
just to give everybody in the audience and whoever might be listening, I'm going to ground truth it. I'm only picking this because I know this person will have the answer to this question. How much does a taser cost? How much does a brand new taser cost? About?
Approximately $5,000.
So we're talking, and our police force, if you come to our meeting tomorrow, you can hear about how our police force is having to cannibalize existing tasers to make the tasers they have work. And these are the people we send out into harm's way. That's closing Main Street. So when you're talking about this issue, and we could point to everybody in this room that has a department, a critical piece of infrastructure, something going on at our wastewater facility, anything. $5,000 is a thing. It's a taser. So when we're talking about this, it's not like we're being cheap.
Okay.
It's because.
Okay. I still want to push Girls' Night Out to a 3 o'clock street closure.
I agree.
For the sake of the merchants. I kind of made my financial pitch, but we had 2 council members here support another event, and so I'm going to challenge my fellow council member, though I'm not in their bracket, but I am going to put up $500 for the Sugar Skull event, personally.
That's just totally unfair.
I know.
Yeah,
That is
I
totally
will match that for Sugar Skull.
Oh my lord.
Okay, there's our, okay.
That's totally.
I know. Totally.
And one more thing, November 2nd won't always be on a Saturday or a Friday. It actually moves around in the calendar because the Earth rotates around the sun and there's a bunch of other things that happen. But yeah, it's not always on a critical day. It's still something to be considered. I don't care what day it falls on. It's still something that we need to think about, but it won't always be, like this year, Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can confidently say I can match that. Even with my,
All right. Can we look at a motion? So our options are to.
I'm willing to try one.
Okay, okay.
I would like to approve the inclusion of these two events into this year's annual events on Main Street with the change in time on the Girls' Night Out to 3 p.m. start time for the closure, and that the cost will be borne by the applicants. I think that.
And then just add the, moving forward, we're going to take all applications in December.
Yes, and moving forward, we will have applications for events in December, and, this is a one-time thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Great, thank you.
Such a deal.
I'll second.
Okay, can I have roll call on that?
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Mayor No?
Aye. Okay, that brings us to 12.2.
Didn't you move 12.3 up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Well, 12.3 is now 12.2.
Okay.
Still 12.2.
The Second Amendment might get very,
Consider request by Merchants on Main to move block party event from June to August 2024. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. The purpose of this discussion is to seek direction regarding a proposed special event date change requested by the applicant Merchants on Main. The event in question is Block Party, previously referred to as Brewfest or Winterfest. Excuse me. Block Party is a full street closer held on Main Street that promotes downtown stores and restaurants. The event was originally scheduled for June 22nd, 24. Staff has been working with Merchants on Main Committee on the event, and we agree that holding the event in May next year is a preferable option. However, the committee does not want to lose the momentum that it has created within the events last year and is therefore requesting a one-year postponement to August 24th from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. The committee agrees to pay for the cost of the road closure, insurance, and the required police presence. The current estimated cost for the event is $7,714.77. Staff is looking for direction regarding the following. Does the city want to approve a Main Street for August 24th from 1 to 10 p.m.? And should the city require the applicant to pay for all the costs associated with the event? Members from Merchants on Main are in the audience tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Questions from the council? Okay. I'll invite the applicant to come up and talk about. Hi.
Hi, I'm Shauna Campbell, and thank you all very much for letting us talk about this, and thank you for listening to all of us here in the events. We are just asking once again, we actually, the date was June 22nd, but it was listed on the calendar as the incorrect date in May on the city calendar. And also we were going to have, we had the event last year and it was the first event of its kind. I myself have a business here. It's on Main Street, but it is not usually in the road closure. So I have lots of opinions about that too, but I definitely support events here. I might not always be busy on that day, but I'm definitely, people come back and they really enjoy it. This particular event is for the merchants and for people to come down Main Street and to go into to the stores and shop and see the restaurants. There's also opportunities for people that are not inside the road closure that are on Main Street to also showcase what they have. So we would love to have it in May. I mean, we think it's a great spring event June. I know Wagon Train's in June, but we are very happy to move it in the spring. We hate to lose the event altogether this year because I think the merchants that we've talked to, it's an exciting time. We've all had a rough go of it in the winter, as I know everybody probably has, but we'd like to continue to have it this year. So August 24th would be great for this year if we could possibly move it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? No questions? Okay, we'll open this for public comment. Nobody in the audience has anything to say? See, I got to motivate them.
Got to give me time to get up here. I agree June is not very good timing. It's too close to the Wagon Train. And I think May is perfect. August 21st, people are starting to go to school. That's just about when school starts again. And people are coming back broke from vacations and needing to get up their school starting expenses done. And August is fire season. And fire season, and August is hot. So I'm glad to hear that they would like to go to May. I think that's a wonderful idea, and in keeping with all the rest of the stuff we've talked about tonight, for this year, we bite the bullet, but for next year, you got to have your application in December, and then you get what time you're given, and that's it, the end. We don't do this all the time.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you. Ruth Michelson, to tie it into just the history a little bit last year. So we were supposed to be having Brewfest. And then Russ Reyes of Kilton Court came to us and said, you know, the week before, Brewfest is happening in El Dorado Hills, which, by the way, I want to say also their chamber puts on. I forgot to mention that earlier. We got to get our chamber involved. But anyway, and the breweries didn't want 2 weekends in a row to be doing an event. And so we had about 2 months last year to figure out an alternative to Brewfest. And that's when we came up with this block party idea. And I've read what's been submitted, and something that seems to be a little bit missing is music as well as some alcohol that draws people in. But we have an idea this year to do it more economically so there really is a positive cash flow. We don't need huge stages and we don't need big bands. I think when people come to Main Street, they just want to enjoy themselves, and we all like a local band, and we can just scale it down. It's really not a music festival. It's really more everyone get together and have a good time. So I really like the direction this is going in, and I appreciate you considering changing the date this year. We just couldn't quite pull it together for June, and this gives us a little more time, and also moving it to the spring as it really should be, because we really need a boost in April and May to bring people down for business. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Don't really know what I'm going to say. Jenny Levitsky. Just a thought went through my mind that the date has changed so much for us, and I'm not sure we really requested the date change, but it's hard to get sponsors. It's hard to make money to come up with to pay for the event ourselves when we have very little time. I just had a quick conversation after the city council left, and we're going to try for next year to group up with them, and they would love to help us sponsor events of all kinds. So hopefully in the future, that's fine. This year, we're scaling it down, so we may not, I know that there's a set amount that the city requires for the road closure. But if you could find it in your budget to give us maybe half or a quarter, any portion of that, does it have to be all or nothing? You know, we're trying, we're going to make the best of it. We don't have any money in the bank. Merchants on Main is not a money-making organization, nor is this event. It was not a meant-for-profit situation. It's just meant to support the merchants and say, good year, good, you know, we all try and we all work really hard. And it's kind of to say, hey, thanks everybody for coming out. Thanks for coming to Main Street. Thanks for supporting our businesses. Thanks for supporting each other to help our town be a better place. So. That's all.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else? Seeing
Madam Mayor,
none?
I would just like to state for the record that 2 items of written communication were received for this item.
Okay.
Copies are on the back table, and they are also posted on the city website.
Thank you. Okay, we'll bring this back to the council for discussion. All right. It is back to the same decisions we were making on the previous 2 items, where I'm
Yeah.
going to complain about 1 p.m. I want to push that to 3. I know they want to negotiate to 2, so I'm going to propose 2:30. 2:30 road closure on that one. What are our other points here? Money is the proposal. I feel like I have to be fair to all the events and say they have to cover their costs. We need to be consistent. And we will revisit any discussions when we look at all of the events again. Just my thought.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place of we allow it in August this year only, similar to what we just did for Girls Night Out. We say that the applicant has to cover the costs and we move their start time. I'm open to 2:30 if you want to versus 3, but again, I kind of want that to be consistent.
Well, at least they're here.
Yeah, because they're kind of similar types of events. I mean, they're not like the same event, but they're a similar type of event.
Right. I
Kind of want
understand.
consistency on what we're doing, at least for this year, and then obviously we can revisit next year when we get applications and what we do going forward.
Agreed.
Mayor, can I mention, I'm going to look at my police chief when I say this too, but I believe we figured we need about an hour to get the street cleared, just so you know. Is that about right, Joe?
That's correct. We will notice an hour ahead of the actual event, the actual closure, to get vehicles cleared out because inevitably people just, for whatever reason.
Okay, so the event starts at 4?
Right. But I'm just saying do they need any setup time between street clearing out and I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm just.
No, I'm listening to the discussion.
So the event starts at 4?
Correct.
Why are we shutting it down? Do they have vendors coming in? Is that the?
Well, they're here. Let's ask them.
If,
So does an hour and a half sound reasonable?
We're not getting this on camera. Video.
Okay. Well, what I heard was, well, I'm sorry, they weren't at the microphone. So what I heard was 2:30 is okay. Bottom line. that it's merchants going to be coming out, putting their booths and wares and restaurants coming out. So it's going to be a great event. That we feel maybe an hour and a half is enough to do that. We'll work to get those cars out, but it seems like we should be good. Yeah. Okay. City manager, I'm looking at you too. Tell me.
it should be, that's should be plenty of
We'll make it work.
time. Our folks have turn this into an art as far as clearing Main Street with the amount of events that we do throughout the year. So it's a combination of clearing vehicles and also prep time for Public Works to set up meridians. So I think they can. Nick, do you think you can hour and a half? I'm comfortable saying an hour and a half lead to the event is enough.
Are you going to be difficult?
Well, this is an important thing because, you know, on the one hand, we're trying not to impact all of the.
Yeah, one second, I will.
We want to impact the merchants and, you know, to minimize that sort of thing. On the other hand, we have staff that this year's going to I think I wrote it in a text and I'll say it in the micro. This year's going to suck. I mean, they're going to have to do a lot of this over and over and over and over again in a relatively short period of time. Now, that's their jobs and they're professionals and they'll do it. But this is also going to tax staff. And so, you know, on the one hand, you know, yeah, we don't want to close the street unnecessarily long. On the other hand, I want to make sure that our staff has plenty of time to do this right. Now, if they say they can do it in an hour and a half, that's great. But I don't want them telling us that because that's what we want to hear. And
They don't always tell me what I want to hear.
yeah, but I don't know. This is one of those momentum things. Anyway, I'm just saying, you know, let's give our staff the right amount of time to do the job well so they don't go crazy.
Okay. Jenny, can you come up to the microphone, please?
We forgot to mention that the city of Folsom is lending us their barricades for our event. But I was told. I was just told that. Is that not allowed?
No, it's not quite that, but we are using, it's a regional asset that we're allowed to use, and we are using those for the event.
Okay.
Those are the meridian. When you hear me refer to meridians, those are a vehicle stoppage barrier that's a regional asset that's available to public safety. So we check them out basically, and then return them at the end.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that
Thank
got
you.
included in the setup timing and all that.
Great, thank you. All right. Other discussion?
Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion, Vice Mayor?
Oh, yeah. I'll move the request to move the date to the 25th. Is that
24th.
24th. 2:30, starting the road.
Street closure.
Street closures process starting, and they're paying. Is there anything else I missed?
I think that's everything.
Got it. Okay.
I'll second.
All right.
Okay, can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Mayor No?
Aye. Okay, this moves us to 12.2, which is really 12.3. Consider approving the Second Amendment to the current water supply agreement with El Dorado Irrigation District, authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute the same and directing staff to incorporate the costs of Second Amendment in the current water cost of service study and water enterprise fund budgets over the next 5 years. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mayor No, members of the council. So the city purchases water from El Dorado Irrigation District as a municipal ratepayer based on a water supply agreement between the city and EID that was approved by the council on February 23rd, 2016. The council renewed the agreement when it approved the First Amendment at its meeting held December 8th, 2020. EID completed its latest cost of service study for both retail and wholesale water rates in 2023. The EID board approved the new retail water rates for the next 5 years at its meeting held on December 11th, 2023. The proposed Second Amendment to the agreement encompasses the period of July 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2028. Other than the revised rates and charges, the agreement is essentially the same as the previous agreement. EID adopted the new retail water rates that increases those rates for 5 years to help offset anticipated increases in cost of operating and maintaining the water system, which serves the city. Staff attended EID's rate workshop held on November 16th and the open hearing held on December 11th of last year. Since then, staff has met with EID staff and discussed the proposed wholesale water rates for the next 5 years. The increases are due to rising costs of operation as well as $185 million dollar CIP over the next 5 years. Projects include the Caldor Fire flume replacement, which actually totaled $33.8 million. EID received $22.7 million in insurance and FEMA reimbursements, so it left about $11.1 million in unreimbursed costs. The Silver Lake Dam, which is over 100 years old, is estimated to cost $50 million. The Sly Park Intertie replacement, which is $50 million. The storage tank replacement program, $30 million, and the waterline replacement project with a price tag of $24 million. So Placerville's rates are only affected by projects being constructed upcountry as part of Project 184 infrastructure. Nothing to the west, for example, Folsom Lake, it's not included in our rates. The current and proposed wholesale water rates are shown on the first chart on page 2 of the report. The rate increase percentages shown in the chart are the same as those adopted by EID for the entire district. Tonight's action would not directly increase the water rates for the city. EID rates, rate increases will need to be incorporated in the city's cost of service study, which is currently underway. The 2024 rate increase would become effective July 1st, and the remaining increases would become effective January of each year thereafter. The equivalent increase in city water rates due to the increased costs for purchasing water from EID are shown on the second chart on page 2 of the report, which range from 1.95% to 4.49%. Most of the other charges, most of the changes in the document are date changes to reflect the new agreement. Section 4C of the agreement addresses increases in the water facility capacity charge, or essentially connection fees. The city collects on behalf of EID for each new connection. Beginning October 1st, 2024, the city will be subject to annual increases in the water FCCs that are proportional to the FCCs charged within the entire district. The projected cost over the next 5 years of the water rates shown on page 3 of the report, which range $55,455 annually to $109,957 annually over the next 5 years. If approved, staff will incorporate the wholesale water rates in the city's cost of service study and the proposed Water Enterprise Fund operating budget beginning in fiscal year 24-25. Staff does plan on holding a cost of service study workshop sometime in August to present the overall recommendations to the City Council and the public for the city's water rates over the next 5 years. So with that, staff respectfully requests the council to approve the proposed second amendment with EID for the wholesale water rates from 24 to 28. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have questions from council? Seeing none, I will open this up for public comment.
Rodman, Measure H, Measure L, committee member. And I had trouble understanding this, so I talked to Dave, and he explained it out, and I think we're very fortunate that we will only be paying for the upstream improvements that EID needs to do, because the improvements they need to do from Folsom Lake is going to be pretty heavy duty, and that's going to affect El Dorado Hills, but it won't hurt us. And to find out that our increases are not going to be 12 and 13 and 12 and 12 and 12%, but only 4.5 and 3.27 and 3.54 and 3.83 and then down to 1.95 is a relief. It is not something that we're really thrilled to see, but you do have to keep care of EID's infrastructure has infrastructure that they must maintain in order for us to have water to buy from them. So we are pretty much strapped to EID for our water supply. If they don't supply it to us, we don't have a supply. So I think this is about as fair as it gets.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring this back to council for discussion.
Well, it's not like we have a choice. No, Sue's comments though about only having to pay for the upstreams of us is a huge issue. Because yeah, it's going to be a big wake-up call for the rest of the county. Since most of the rest of the county lives west of us, it's going to be interesting. Anyway, I'll move that we adopt the Second Amendment, which just seems weird to me. Anyway, but yes, the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gottberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
I didn't make sure he's awake.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
I know.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye. Moves us to 12.4. Consider a resolution approving change order number 1 with Johnson Controls Incorporated for the water reclamation facility solar photovoltaic project in the amount of $1,190, $465. $1,190,465. I'm getting tired. Authorize the city manager to execute the same and approve a $3,970,420 budget appropriation in state clean water construction loan principal forgiveness funds for said project. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My time's up.
Yep.
As you know, we started this process with Johnson Controls back in approximately 2015, I believe. We started doing studies. We identified first our lighting and HVAC projects, which were done in 2019, I believe is when those were completed. We actually received a California Energy Commission loan for those, and we are paying the cost of those facilities through the savings from the lighting and a little bit from the HVAC. The HVAC did not show a big cost savings, but we knew that we needed to replace those, so we took advantage of that at the time. The next project that was looked at was the solar project at the wastewater treatment plant. And this one went through a lot of iterations trying to get to where we are today, actually. We were looking at loans at one time, a couple of different options for loans. And as we were working on the one option, which was through the water board that you see here tonight, they started talking to us, well, through, I think they called it their green program, we had the option of potentially looking at some grant money. Boy, what a roller coaster ride that was. We went from 25% grant to 50% grant, maybe 75, and then all of a sudden it was 100% grant. And then I still remember the day Dave Warren and I were called to a meeting with them to talk, and they said, the budget has changed. We can't offer you the grant anymore. We don't have the money. We can offer you a 100% or a 0% interest loan, which was still a good deal, and it's still somewhat penciled out in the process. And so we started moving in that direction. We had to submit some more paperwork and et cetera, and then lo and behold, about 6 months to 8 months later, they came back again and said, we want to let you know that our budget has improved. We have more money this year than we expected, and we can now go back and offer you the 100% grant, or as they call it, a principal forgiveness, 100% principal forgiveness, which means it's the same as a grant. And so I want to emphasize that we moved forward with that. We got all the information submitted. We have that in writing now. We have a contract, signed contract for that. So they shouldn't say can't, shouldn't be able to come back and pull that away from us again. We've submitted all our paperwork. We're moving forward. And we're currently looking at, in June, receiving the engineered plans, and we're working with our engineering department on hopefully be able to move those as quickly as possible. But they're asking us to move them quicker than we can, but we're going to do the best, and we'll work with them on that. They've kind of delayed some things to get us where we are today, so that we're really under a time crunch now. And so the goal is that we need to have this project completely finished by December 15th of this year. Otherwise we lose what is called NEM1 NEM1 for solar project through PG&E. and it significantly decreases the savings. Now, we would still have savings because it's a grant, so any savings is savings, but we wouldn't realize what we are now. The estimate right now is in the neighborhood, well, let me go back. The estimate that we were giving back in 2019, I believe it was $150,000. But as you know, PG&E rates have gone up significantly since that. We have not got a new estimate, but I estimate that our savings are going to be much higher than even the $150,000. And that is after the maintenance and operations of the system. The total savings were estimated at approximately $188,000, but there's about $38,000 they estimate for operations and maintenance of the system over the year. So all this will also go back into what we just talked about, and that's keeping our rates down. That's $150,000 in energy costs that we won't have to pay. This is a very large, well, let me first say, this is being done under a code section that allows us to do this, and I would compare it to a design build type program. The legislature passed a law, and I won't, the code section is in here, you can look at it if you want, but which allows energy projects to use this and goes through this design build basic concept. That's what Johnson Controls presented to us back in 2017. They gave us the budget. We looked at that, and that's what the agreement was based on, and the agreement we signed was a guaranteed project based on that budget. However, there's been a big difference between 2017 and 2024 today. We all know inflation, labor costs, equipment costs, et cetera, everything that has gone up since then. So as you can see, this is a very large increase, the $1.1 million increase to bring it up to today's dollars and move the project forward. However, the total project of $3.970 million is the same as what the grant amount is. So it will be totally covered by the grant from the state. So we do not have to go back and ask for more. We actually could have. They were asking us to give them a budget update and ask for more money if need be. However, Johnson Controls came back and said that their 2022 estimate they gave us of the 3.97 will still work today based on everything that they've done. So that is a guaranteed price that they will produce the project for us. We just need to keep it moving forward. So what we're asking from you tonight is to approve the resolution which will adopt change order number 1 with Johnson Controls for their agreement in the amount of $1,190,465. And then even though we did some work previously related to this, we never did actually appropriate the funding for the previous, so we're asking a full appropriation of the 3.970420 tonight. If you have any questions, I'll have to answer those, or perhaps Melissa may be able to answer some if there are details regarding the project, as engineering is now taking over this project from me because I don't know how to do it, so I'm letting them have it.
Very good. Okay, do we have questions from council? Michael?
Thank you, Cleve and Melissa. Only question I have is I know since we are under a gun and we definitely don't want to lose that NEM rating. Do we need? I mean, is there funds within this dollar amount to if we needed like consultant help in order to get this done in time? I'm just wondering because I don't want to lose, in perpetuity a rate if it means we have to spend some money right now. And because I want to make sure we get it done in time. And maybe we don't need it, but I just want to at least put that question out there.
Yeah, understand, and I've talked to Melissa about that, if potentially looking at an outside engineering firm to help us with the design review. It's a difficult one because it has to be somebody that knows our system and knows what we have to look at. But we will look at doing whatever we can. And I think there is some contingency and et cetera built into this amount. So, yeah. Okay. And there's contingency and there's also city funds for review and administration of this are all built into the grant. So.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions? No, seeing none, we'll open this for public comment.
Sue Rodman again, Measure H, Measure L, and have been watching for this solar to come online for years. And one of my questions that Cleve was kind enough to answer is, why hasn't solar already been installed on the water treatment plant? Because I thought we had a contracted to get this done several years ago, like 2019 at the very latest. And that solar was supposed to cut our electric bills in the sewer plant in half. Now we got to get it done before PG&E changes the game. And so now we know why it happened and all of the ins and outs, and I appreciate Cleve giving us an understanding, because I was not thrilled when I read this, and I thought, if Johnson Controls doesn't perform any better than this, we should get somebody else to do the job. And that they need to get this job done now and not stall any longer. And if part of it's our fault, okay, then we need to bite the bullet and also make sure that this gets done. Because I would like to know, just if we had done solar when we first approved doing this, how much money would we have already saved? Because I think it would have been quite a bit. And if we had done this and it had been in force and we were making those savings, would we now be having to take all the Measure H funds away to pay the debt so that we can have enough people to do the job we need to do? Because it all comes out in the wash. There is, if you didn't get it done when you said you were going to do it, and there were all these savings that you should have had all this time, and they aren't there, and now Measure H is being rob Peter to pay Paul so that we have enough people to do the job. It doesn't sit well with me. I think we should have had this done a long time ago. And thank you, Cleve, for giving me an understanding of why it didn't happen. Still not happy about it, but at least I understand.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for discussion and a motion.
I'd like to see this project move forward as quickly as possible, and with that, I will move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gottberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Clarici.
Aye.
Mayor No.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 13, council reports from other agency meetings. El Dorado County Transit Authority meets next week. Transportation Commission meets next week. LAFCO.
It was a fun-filled, I'm sorry. Let's see, we approved the budget for next year. It is not increasing, which is good. And then we talked about the dysfunction of the Cameron Park CSD, which is always amusing. And I believe those were the two things we did.
Thank you. SACOG.
Speaking of lively discussions, we did have a very lively discussion on the blueprint, which is that, again, that planning document for the 6-county region. Really, because what it boils down to is what developers want to be in the plan or will not make the plan for certain areas. And this is mostly concerning Sacramento County and to some degree Placer County as well. I mean, for us, for El Dorado, Placerville, I mean, we're not even a speck in that. El Dorado County, you're talking about a continued development sort of on the east side of El Dorado Hills. West side still got some, that's not really in the long-term plan at this point. However, for anyone listening that cares to know, so one thing about being in the plan or not in the plan, the blueprint, is that even if you're not in it, but you get the local municipality or county, what have you, approves the plan, you're in it in the next 4 years. Right. So it doesn't actually ever disqualify somebody, but of course developers want to be in it because they think there could be more transportation funding and other things when it comes to infrastructure. So a lot of conversation, I think, with Sacramento County it's going to be a tough vote that we'll have to do in June to see what that final product will ultimately look like. So a little bit of inside baseball, but a lot of, it will significant for the region, though.
Great, thank you. Pioneer Community Energy?
Yeah, well, we're doing the same thing that we're doing here, and that was budget. So that's what we did for our whole meeting.
Okay, Placerville Fire Safe Council's next week, and Opportunity Knox.
Did not meet.
Okay, great. Item 14, requests for, do I have public comments on our comments? None. Okay. 14, requests for future agenda items. Do we have any? No? Okay, we will move to item 15, city manager and staff reports. 15.1, acknowledge and file the HDL sales tax and economic report for quarter ended December 31st, 2023. Mr. Warren.
Mayor No, members of the council, so we did receive your fourth quarter sales tax returns and your Bradley Burn sales tax, which is your general fund sales tax on the cash basis, was down, unfortunately, by $51,911 or 3%. And actually, when you look at the adjusted, which excludes the back taxes, it was exactly the same, slightly larger decrease, but about 3%. The decrease was primarily due to decreases in fuel, service stations, food and drugs, business and industry. It's important to note that one of your major food and drug businesses transitioned from reporting annually to quarterly. So that kind of impacted your results by about a percentage point. So if it wasn't for that, it would be about a 2%. It's still negative, but the budget assumption for that period was an increase of $9,764 or 0.56%. So with the $52,000 decrease and the $9,700, it's about $62,000 greater decrease than what we budgeted, or 3.56 percentage points. We're not alone. El Dorado County was down by 2.7%, Sacramento region 3.3%, statewide 2.5%. We appreciate all of our businesses, especially our top 25 sales tax producers. The Main Street Tap House, Sierra Nevada Tire and Wheel, and the Smoke Shop of Placerville were added, and then Bricks Restaurant, Shell, and WN Hunt & Sons dropped off. Good news, your per capita sales tax, you held your position at number 37 out of 539 agencies for per capita sales tax, which was $604 per person. Measure H, J, and L had similar performance, unfortunately performed lower in the fourth quarter. For example, Measure J, cash basis down $17,000 or 4.3%. Measure J adjusted, 38,000 down or 9.4% decrease. The budget assumption was 0.23% increase. So combined, it's about $39,000 less than budget. Again, that one business also had an effect on your Measure J, and other L and H would have been higher, better performance if it wasn't for that. And then the decrease is primarily due to general consumer goods, business and industry, autos and transportation, food and drugs. So in looking at the trends, sales tax and economic drivers, overall the projected sales tax and economic drivers are slightly more pessimistic, unfortunately. Not much, but just slightly less. So not a surprise when you see the news about the economy. So that's it. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Seeing none, do we have any questions from the audience? Seeing none, we will bring it back. Item 16 is upcoming.
I have a question about upcoming events.
Okay.
All right. What's the Big Belly pilot program? Anybody want to handle the Big Belly pilot program? I'm just going to keep saying it because it's funny.
So we have been looking at our garbage cans on Main Street. These are new garbage cans that we're considering if we can find a way to fund them that are.
Gotta look it up.
They're better. We're still analyzing a little bit. The pilot program would install one of them and get feedback on them.
Yeah, I think they won't.
Cleve, you should have just made something up.
All right. All right, if that's it, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:37 p.m. Thank you, everybody.